Phoenix Nights. Chapter 2679. A large area of the void suddenly collapsed as two figures broke through the void and rushed out of the chaos. The pressure of a Saint Venerate filled the area. Everyone was shocked when they saw this scene. The divine pressure of a Saint Venerate made everyone's hearts palpitate. Even the ancient Celestial Emperor and the Fire Emperor could not help but be moved. Yuan Gu, come and fight me! As soon as Gu Fei rushed out of the primal chaos, he charged towards the primordial Celestial Emperor. With a wave of his hands, the 9 rays of primal chaos divine light around him immediately turned into 9 rays of primal chaos rainbow that pierced towards the primordial Celestial Emperor. Gu Fei, you little brat! The ancient Celestial Emperor was both shocked and angry. Gu Fei had already grown up. Buzz! 9 immortal marks also rushed out of the ancient Celestial Emperor's body. The 9 purple immortal marks turned into a shocking sword light that met the 9 beams of chaotic divine light. 2 extremely strong sword chi clashed together in an instant, and a devastating sword chi wave burst out. The void was directly torn apart, and it was annihilated silently. The ancient Celestial Emperor quickly retreated. At this time, the Elder Ape had already started fighting with Gu Fei. Every punch they threw caused the entire area to tremble, displaying their terrifying combat power. Gu Fei naturally did not show any weakness and also waved his fist. Boom! Gu Fei's chaotic fist collided with the old ape's golden fist, resulting in a deafening explosion. The two figures quickly separated, and the void between them collapsed. Pitch-black spatial cracks extended into the distance. The Elder Ape did not have much time left. Soon, he would turn into a great path mark and return to the heavenly path. Swoosh! Golden light filled the sky as the Elder Ape directly pounced towards Gu Fei. As he waved his golden fist, it shattered the void. The terrifying pressure caused the sky to tremble. Instead of retreating, Gu Fei charged at the old macaque. Boom! Bang! Gu Fei and the old ape were like two supreme gods fighting each other. Their powerful Saint Venerable auras filled the surroundings, shocking everyone. I didn't expect this Gu Fei to be able to contend against the great Tao brand of the Elder Ape. When the Fire Emperor saw this scene in the Heavenly Emperor Palace, he could not help but be moved. It should be known that the old ape was the most outstanding existence in the past. Even in the Holy Venerable realm, he was an unrivaled Holy Venerable. Martial artists can really be invincible among their peers. The power that Gu Fei had displayed had already exceeded his expectations, causing him to look at Gu Fei in a different light. He did not want to become enemies with Gu Fei. Kill! The primordial celestial dart rushed over. Clanging sounds rang out from his body as thousands of sword lights rushed out from his body and pierced towards Gu Fei. The flying immortal sword she crisscrossed. This was equivalent to 2 Saint Venerables attacking Gu Fei at the same time. Ha, come! Not only was Gu Fei not afraid in the face of such a fierce attack, but he even laughed. The stronger the opponent, the better to test his own combat strength. Gu Fei's long hair danced in the wind as he punched the old ape and stomped on the primordial celestial dart. He was actually fighting against 2 Saint Venerables by himself. Everyone was stunned by this scene. This is too heaven-defying, someone said with a trembling voice. It really is Gu Fei. At this time, on a mountain several thousand miles away, Yuan Hong was extremely excited. 3 figures moved rapidly in the void, piercing through the void. In the end, the 3 figures rushed into the depths of the chaos. The energy fluctuations caused by the battle caused the void to shake. An hour later, a heavenly Tao brand rushed out of the chaos and disappeared into the depths of the sky, returning to the heavenly Tao. Success. In the Heavenly Emperor Palace, the Fire Emperor's face was very solemn. This was the first time he had seen someone successfully pass the heavenly tribulation. Boom! Suddenly, the void shattered and a figure rushed out of the chaos. This person was actually the primordial celestial dart. He was in an extremely sorry state, his body tattered and covered in blood. It was hard to imagine what kind of attack he had suffered in the chaos. Ha, primordial son, to think that this day would come for you. Gu Fei's voice came out of the chaos. A figure walked out of the chaos and instantly appeared in front of the primordial celestial arch. Go to hell. The primordial celestial arch directly used the killing technique. The void around Gu Fei suddenly collapsed. He was devoured by a heaven-devouring force into a void where the sun could not be seen. Numerous immortal runes appeared in the void, turning into peerless sword light that pierced towards Gu Fei. The sword light was densely packed in front, behind, up, down, left, and right. This was the sword domain created by the primordial celestial arch. There was only the sword here and nothing else. As long as one was trapped in the sword domain, there would only be one outcome: death. Humph. Gu Fei was not in a hurry. With a thought, a light barrier immediately appeared around his body and enveloped him. The countless sword lights that pierced towards him were all blocked by the light barrier. What? The primordial celestial Thearcha's voice rang out. He had never expected that even though he had trapped Gu Fei in the sword domain, it would not be easy to kill Gu Fei. I don't believe that I can't kill you. The primordial celestial arch was furious. He operated the sword domain with all his might, causing the entire sword domain to tremble as if it could collapse at any moment. Terrifying sword lights continuously condensed in the sword domain and slashed towards Gu Fei. Great Tao power also suppressed Gu Fei from all directions. Immortal runes were imprinted in the void around Gu Fei, freezing the entire void. The primordial celestial arch wanted to obliterate Gu Fei in the sword domain. However, the primordial celestial Thearcha's expression changed in the next moment. Rumble! A supreme saint venerate power erupted from Gu Fei's body. The entire sword domain began to tremble as pitch-black spatial cracks continuously appeared. Roar! Gu Fei raised his head and roared. His long hair danced in the wind as the chaotic light in his eyes grew to dozens of meters long. An extremely powerful ripple of energy erupted from his body. The sword lights that were constantly piercing towards him were all shattered. Even the immortal runes imprinted in the void around him dimmed as if they could collapse at any moment. Break! Gu Fei shouted as he punched upwards with his right fist. The supreme saint venerate fist force erupted. This was the combination of his physical body and battle technique, so it displayed unimaginable power. Boom! With a loud sound, the world shook. Gu Fei's fist actually blasted a huge hole in the entire sword domain. He had forcefully broken through the sword domain. Gu Fei did not hesitate and directly rushed out of the hole. How is this possible? Chapter 2680. The primordial heavenly emperor cultivated the soaring immortal swordsmanship. The soaring immortal swordsmanship domain was a killing technique cultivated by the primordial heavenly emperor. It was equivalent to opening up a world of swords. As long as one was swallowed by the soaring immortal swordsmanship, no one would be able to escape. Everyone would be killed inside, including heavenly sovereigns. Even heavenly sovereigns did not dare to enter the sword domain when they were fighting against the primordial heavenly emperor. Rumble! The sword domain collapsed, and beams of extremely sharp sword light slashed out in all directions. Every beam of sword light was like a shocking divine rainbow, directly breaking through the void of the world. Buzz! A sword light descended from the sky and landed directly on the sky above Celestial City. It slashed at the celestial light that protected the city, causing it to tremble violently. The surviving cultivators in Celestial City were shocked. However, they heaved a sigh of relief when they saw that the celestial light that protected the city was able to withstand the sword light that descended from the sky. At this time, ash could be seen everywhere in Celestial City. That was the tribulation ash left behind by the cultivators who had died under the tribulation. If a cultivator who had ignited the tribulation flame failed to pass the tribulation, he would be blasted into ashes by the tribulation. Both his body and soul would be destroyed. The sword domain of the primordial heavenly emperor collapsed as countless sword lights rushed out. The celestial palace in the sky was also struck by the sword light, but it was also blocked by a layer of immortal light. The soaring immortal sword light possessed great power, but the defensive formations of Celestial City and the Celestial Palace were also very powerful. Those were the lair of the primordial Heavenly Emperor. It was definitely not an easy task to break through the defensive formations of these two places. Boom! With a loud sound, the sword domain completely collapsed. A powerful sword energy swept out in all directions, causing the void to collapse and be annihilated. The primordial Heavenly Emperor was directly blown away by this force. Even Gu Fei had no choice but to retreat. The celestial palace in the sky and celestial city on the ground were affected and constantly shook. The layer of immortal light above celestial city blossomed with resplendent radiance. Immortal runes faintly appeared and intertwined on the immortal light. The region within a radius of 10,000 miles was in a great upheaval. The power of the sword wave that swept out directly turned the mountains into dust, dissipating in the void. The golden spirit ape Yuan Hong and the others also retreated far away to avoid being affected by the mighty power of the sword Dao. Kill! Gu Fei directly tore through the void and charged forward. With just one step, he had already arrived before the ancient Yuan celestial dart and blasted out a punch. There was no blinding divine light or monstrous energy fluctuations. It seemed like a casual punch. However, Gu Fei's punch made the ancient Yuan Heavenly Thearcha's expression change. Turning something rotten into something magical, The ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor had never imagined that Gu Fei would be able to unleash such a punch right after undergoing the Heavenly Sovereign Tribulation. This made him feel very uneasy. If Gu Fei was given enough time to comprehend it, he would definitely be able to go even further on this path. Without any suspense, the primordial celestial dart was sent flying by Gu Fei's punch. The power of the great path contained within this punch was extremely powerful, and the primordial celestial dart continuously coughed up blood. Roar! The primordial celestial dart roared again and again as he unleashed all sorts of shocking killing techniques. However, he had already lost all his advantages and was unable to do anything to Gu Fei. Boom! There was a muffled sound as the primordial celestial emperor was once again sent flying by Gu Fei's punch. Cracks appeared all over his body, as if he was a delicate piece of porcelain that could shatter at any moment. How is this possible? The primordial celestial dart couldn't accept this. He was on the verge of going crazy. He unleashed all 9 secrets of the immortal path and the soaring immortal sword path. However, Gu Fei only used one punch. When the primordial celestial dart used the anti-void secret technique to escape into the void, he was knocked out by Gu Fei's punch. The primordial celestial dart used the soaring immortal sword path. Thousands of sword lights hummed, but they were still scattered by Gu Fei's punch. No matter how many sword lights there were, Gu Fei's punch was enough to destroy them. Everyone was stunned by this scene. The primordial celestial dart was undoubtedly powerful, but he couldn't gain any advantage against Gu Fei's fist. The primordial celestial dart is finished. The Flame Emperor knew that the primordial celestial dart was no match for Gu Fei. The primordial celestial dart shouldn't be so weak. He could also see that this wasn't the real body of the primordial celestial dart, but a clone. His real body still hasn't appeared even now. The Flame Emperor was very curious. He didn't plan on taking action. He wanted to see if the primordial celestial dart would come in his real body. Dizun! Seeing the primordial celestial dart being suppressed by Gu Fei left the primordial celestial Thearcha's subordinates dumbfounded. How could a Dizun be defeated? By this time, some of the big shots from the other regions of the heavenly realm had arrived. They were all dumbfounded and shocked to see the primordial celestial dart being beaten so miserably by a youth. Who is that? When did the heavenly realm have such an expert? Many people were whispering to each other. At this time, a young man wearing a mysterious green divine armor rushed over from the distance and landed on a mountain peak. This young man's body was surging with a majestic draconic aura. The image of a huge dragon was faintly discernible on his body. Oh, why is he here too? Someone recognized this young man. The eldest disciple of the demon race's patriarch. Someone was secretly startled. This young man's background wasn't small. Moreover, the demon race's patriarch was extremely protective and powerful. No one dared to provoke the demon race in the heavenly realm because the current demon race's patriarch was extremely powerful. Even when the demon race was rebelling, no one dared to have any ideas. As expected, when the demon race's patriarch returned, he immediately quelled the rebellion. It really is Big Brother. The young man couldn't help but be excited when he saw the figure in the sky. Brother Monkey is here too. Xiaoqing soon sensed Yuan Hong's aura. He soared into the sky from the mountain peak and flew towards the mountain where Yuan Hong was. Where is that old tortoise? His brother is fighting, but he still has the nerve to watch from the side. When Xiaoqing landed beside Yuan Hong's voice reached Xiaoqing's ears. Xiaoqing was startled when he heard this. He just happened to be in the Eastern Earth. When he heard that someone was undergoing tribulation in the ancient celestial Thearka's lair, he immediately ran over. However, he didn't know where his master, the old tortoise, was. You are the eldest disciple of the demon race's patriarch, the Green Emperor. The Xianming Saintess, who was standing beside Yuan Hong, looked at Xiaoqing. Her eyes lit up. In recent years, the Green Emperor's fame had shaken the heaven realm. He was a rising star in the heaven realm. To be able to befriend such a person was definitely a good thing for the Xianming sect. The Xianming Saintess could use her relationship with Xiaoqing to befriend the demon race's patriarch. Boom! Chapter 2681. The Green Emperor was the Emperor of Demons. This was the name that Xiaoqing had gained in the heaven realm. He was the eldest disciple of the current demon lord. Such an identity was enough for all the powerhouses in the heaven realm to not look down on Xiaoqing. It should be said that Xiaoqing had an extremely protective master. Moreover, Xiaoqing's cultivation was also extremely powerful. He could compete with the powerhouses of the previous generation and fight for the demon lord. At this time, the battle between Gu Fei and the ancient Yuan celestial ruler was about to end. Gu Fei's powerful fist had directly destroyed the ancient Yuan celestial ruler's heavenly venerate immortal body. You don't have the qualifications to kill me. The ancient Yuan celestial ruler's consciousness fluctuated within the bloody mist. The bloody mist ignited and emitted a demonic bloody light. The bloody light rapidly converged and a figure appeared within it. Very quickly, all the bloody light disappeared. The ancient Yuan celestial ruler had reappeared. Moreover, his aura was also extremely tyrannical. Heaven Ascension Secret Technique. Gu Fei couldn't help frowning. He had obtained the Heaven Ascension Secret Technique from the Violet Emperor, the only son of the ancient Yuan celestial ruler. The Heaven Ascension Secret Technique had naturally been imparted to him by the ancient Yuan celestial ruler. I already said that you don't have the qualifications to kill me. The ancient Yuan celestial ruler stared at Gu Fei with a gloomy expression. His gaze was extremely vicious, like a venomous snake staring at Gu Fei. Anyone else would have been intimidated by the ancient Yuan celestial ruler's gaze. However, who was Gu Fei? He had encountered existences even more terrifying than the ancient Yuan celestial ruler. Die! Gu Fei didn't say anything else. He simply threw another punch at the ancient Yuan celestial ruler. This was a mysterious punch. It didn't emit any divine light or energy fluctuations, but it still blasted the ancient Yuan celestial ruler into a bloody mist. This was the power of the Tao. From the complex to the simple, the rotten to the magical. Gu Fei's usage of the Tao had reached a new level. Even an existence like the ancient Yuan celestial ruler couldn't help but be moved. This person's comprehension was truly terrifying. Damn it! The ancient Yuan celestial arch was both shocked and angry. He reformed his immortal body once again, and his body still exuded the powerful aura of his peak state. It didn't seem like he had been fighting for a long time. This was the wondrous aspect of the secret ascension technique. It could instantly restore a cultivator to his or her prime state. Even the wounds they received would be completely healed up. Let's see how many times you can reform your body. Gu Fei was going all out. He threw punch after punch at the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor, directly turning the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor's heavenly venerate immortal physique into dregs. However, the primordial celestial Darch had grasped the Heaven Ascension secret technique. Even if he was blasted to smithereens by Gu Fei's fist, he could still reform his immortal body and continue fighting Gu Fei. When they saw this scene, everyone became stupefied. A few old monsters saw through something and were all shocked to the extreme. The primordial Heavenly Emperor was formidable, actually grasping this type of secret technique. Damn, looks like it's hard to tell who will win, the Flame Emperor muttered to himself. The primordial celestial Darch was basically undefeatable. The Heaven Ascension secret technique was an undying immortal art. It was said to be unkillable. Since it couldn't be killed, then the final victor would be the unkillable one. This is bad. Yuan Hong couldn't help but feel nervous. The primordial celestial Darch had truly hidden himself well. He had actually grasped such a heaven-defying secret technique. It seemed like Gu Fei had the upper hand, but the primordial celestial Darch hadn't lost yet. Brother Monkey, don't worry. My big brother won't lose, Xiaoqing said. Despite saying this, he was still a little nervous. The primordial celestial Darch wasn't an ordinary existence. He was a heavenly sovereign. In the heavenly realm, only heavenly sovereigns were qualified to be called emperors. The primordial celestial Darch was definitely an expert among heavenly sovereigns. The situation isn't looking good, the Xianming Saintess said. Preposterous! Gu Fei knew that this was only a clone of the primordial celestial Darch. However, this clone was extremely powerful and shouldn't be much weaker than a true god. If he couldn't even kill a clone of the primordial celestial Darch, then how could he fight the real body of the primordial celestial Darch? Haha, don't waste your energy. You can't kill me. The primordial celestial Thearka's consciousness rippled through the bloody light. The primordial celestial Darch, who had been blasted apart by Gu Fei's punch, had once again reformed his heavenly sovereign immortal body. Is that so? Gu Fei suddenly revealed a cold and arrogant smile. Then, he threw another punch and blasted the primordial celestial Thearka's immortal body into a bloody mist once again. I already said that you can't kill me, yet you're still trying. How foolish, haha. The primordial celestial Darch laughed wantonly. I'll kill you right now. Gu Fei suddenly rushed into the bloody mist. Then, a powerful suction force emerged from his body. His entire body seemed to have turned into a terrifying black hole that continuously swallowed the bloody mist around him. Rumble! The void shook as Gu Fei's heaven-devouring power surged out and instantly enveloped the surrounding void and the bloody mist. What? You! The primordial celestial Thearka's horrified voice came from the bloody mist. The bloody mist continuously gathered towards Gu Fei and was directly turned into nothingness by a strange force. How is this possible? You actually obtained this secret technique. This time, the primordial celestial Darch could no longer remain calm. This secret technique was the nemesis of the Heaven Ascension secret technique, as it could turn everything in the world into nothingness. What's going on? Everyone watching from afar noticed that something was wrong. The bloody mist was glowing as if it was trying to escape. It was as if there was something terrifying on Gu Fei's body. How is this possible? The Fire Emperor was finally moved when he saw this scene from the Celestial Darch Palace. Big Brother is really powerful. Xiaoqing was both surprised and delighted. Gu Fei was definitely going to win. The 9 secrets of the immortal Tao? Yuan Hong muttered to himself as he looked at the figure in the bloody mist in the distance. Gu Fei used the void secret technique. The bloody mist around him constantly gathered towards him and was obliterated by the power of the void secret technique. Both the primordial celestial Thearka's power and spirit sense were turned into nothingness. At this moment, even the Heaven Ascension secret technique had lost its effect, as the power of the Heaven Ascension secret technique had also been turned into nothingness. Arg! I refuse to accept this. Only now did the primordial celestial Darch realize that Gu Fei had been pretending to be weak all along. Gu Fei had made him lower his guard before dealing the fatal blow. The primordial celestial Thearka's Yuan spirit had been sucked in by the void secret technique. It was impossible for him to escape. Very soon, The bloody mist had been completely wiped out by Gu Fei's Void's secret technique. An incomparably powerful clone had been destroyed by Gu Fei just like that. Roar! In a mysterious place, a furious roar sounded. The entire region was shaking, and a wave of supreme immortal Tao aura surged. Who is it? Who dares to destroy my clone? Chapter 2682. The clone embodiment of the ancient celestial Darch had been turned into nothingness by Gu Fei's Void's secret art. Even though the embodiment of the ancient celestial Darch had mastered the Heaven Ascension secret art, it was still useless. Legend had it that the Void's secret art was the last of the 9 secrets of the immortal path. It was a heaven-defying secret art created by the Supreme Tao Ancestor after he had attained enlightenment. Some people said that the 9th secret art was the nemesis of the first 8 secrets. This was definitely not groundless. After destroying the clone embodiment of the ancient celestial Darch, Gu Fei appeared on the mountain ridge where Shaoqing and Yuan Hong were. He took a step forward and arrived in an instant. His speed was extremely fast. When Gu Fei appeared in front of them, Shaoqing and Yuan Hong were both taken aback. The mysterious underworld saintess's eyes flickered with a strange glint. No one knew what she was thinking about. Big brother! Shaoqing, who was extremely excited, walked forward and hugged Gu Fei tightly. Shaoqing, you've grown up. Gu Fei was also very excited to see Shaoqing. It should be known that he and Shaoqing had met during a crisis. Back when he had been chased and met Shaoqing, Shaoqing had sucked away the strange poison in his body and saved his life. Back then, Shaoqing had just been a Shaoqing snake. Now, he had become a demon emperor and a disciple of a demon lord from the sky realm. Of course, Gu Fei was no longer the young man who had just made his debut. They had a lot to talk about when they reunited once again. However, the two of them didn't know what to say at the moment. Gu Fei, I didn't expect it to be you. I was wondering who would be so daring as to come to the lair of the ancient celestial Darch to undergo tribulation. Yuan Hong, the golden spiritual ape, walked over. Brother monkey. Gu Fei also stepped forward and hugged Yuan Hong tightly. They were brothers who treated each other with sincerity. While Gu Fei was talking to Shaoqing and Yuan Hong, the Celestial Emperor City and the Celestial Emperor Palace were in an uproar. Everyone could not believe that their venerable sovereigns had been killed by that young man. How is this possible? That's not true. How could Dizun die? Countless people roared and howled at the top of their lungs. The subordinates of the ancient celestial Darch couldn't accept this cruel reality. To the subordinates of the primordial celestial Darch, the death of the primordial celestial Darch was akin to the collapse of their world. Everyone felt incomparable despair. It was like a lamp in the darkness had suddenly been extinguished, plunging countless people into boundless darkness. This Gu Fei has finally grown up, the Fire Emperor muttered to himself. He had never intended to make a move. Gu Fei wasn't someone to be trifled with. He directly used the transportation formation in the Celestial Emperor Palace and left the Celestial Emperor Palace. He knew that although Gu Fei had destroyed the incarnation of the primordial celestial Darch, Gu Fei wouldn't just let it go. Next, Gu Fei would attack the Celestial Emperor Palace and the Celestial Emperor City. The Fire Emperor didn't want to fight with Gu Fei, so he chose to leave. Big brother, shouldn't we collect some spoils of war? Shaoqing looked at the Celestial Emperor City in front of them and said. This was the lair of the primordial celestial Darch, so there would definitely be a lot of good stuff. They should loot it. Not bad. Yuan Hong nodded and smiled coldly. His eyes were extremely sharp as he looked at the Celestial Emperor Palace. It was as if 2 bolts of lightning had suddenly appeared in the void. At this moment, the eyes of the mysterious underworld saintess lit up. She immediately sent a message to the elders of the mysterious underworld sect, Black Tiger Taoist, and Yan Kuan. Black Tiger Taoist and Yan Kuan immediately turned around and left. At this time, Gu Fei, Shaoqing, and Yuan Hong had already soared into the sky and flew forward. Gu Fei had the speed of 8 steps. He took a step and appeared in the sky above the Celestial Emperor City. A powerful holy venerate aura spread out, causing the void to tremble. Rumble! The void trembled as 9 beams of primordial light circled around Gu Fei's body. Those were the primordial light of the Great Path. Primordial Tao runes could be vaguely seen in each beam of light. That savage is here. We must avenge the Dizun. Kill this savage! Waves of angry roars came from the Celestial Emperor City. The crowd was very excited. Some people even soared into the sky and attacked Gu Fei. These people could pass through the layer of divine light that enveloped the Celestial Emperor City. The great formation laid down by the primordial Celestial Emperor was very mysterious. The people inside the Celestial Emperor City could come out, but the people outside could not enter. Kill! A powerful holy venerate aura spread out. The expert who came out from the Celestial Emperor City was actually a saint. His body erupted with monstrous divine flames that burned the void. Reckless. Gu Fei did not put this person in his eyes at all. He stretched out his hand and directly displayed the heaven-covering palm. A giant chaotic palm immediately appeared in the void and slammed towards the fire saint. Bang! As the chaos hand descended, the endless sacred fire was extinguished by the mighty chaos force above the chaos hand. The fire saint was also directly shaken into a cloud of blood mist, dissipating in the void along with the sacred fire. This, an incomparably powerful saint, was actually killed by Gu Fei. Such a ferocious might made everyone in the Celestial Emperor City speechless. The originally noisy Celestial City immediately quieted down. Not a single sound could be heard. Whoever wants to die, come at me! Gu Fei's words were transmitted to the ears of everyone in the Celestial Emperor City. He was like a supreme god of death, looking down on every living creature in the Celestial Emperor City. At this time, Shaoqing also arrived in the sky above the Celestial Emperor City. Big brother, why are you talking to these guys? Let's just fight, Shaoqing said in an overbearing manner. All right. Gu Fei did not hesitate any longer. He directly smashed his fist towards the Celestial Emperor City below. This was a mysterious punch. It did not emit a dazzling divine light, nor did it have a monstrous energy fluctuation. It was like a casual punch from an ordinary person. However, this mysterious punch of Gu Fei had directly smashed the primordial Celestial Emperor's heavenly venerate body. Boom! The sky above the Celestial Emperor City was in a great turmoil. The layer of immortal light that enveloped the Celestial Emperor City shook violently. Immortal runes constantly flashed on the immortal light. The entire Celestial Emperor City was shaken by Gu Fei's punch. Everyone in the Celestial Emperor City was stunned by this shocking scene. Very soon, all kinds of shouts came from the Celestial Emperor City. Everyone in the Celestial Emperor City knew that the situation was anything but reassuring. This was definitely not a good thing for everyone in the city. It would definitely be a disaster if this savage attacked the Celestial Emperor City. Countless cultivators in the city did not want to see such a scene. This tortoise shell is quite hard. Gu Fei was somewhat surprised. He was very clear about the power of his punch, but it still couldn't break through the layer of immortal light that enveloped the Celestial Emperor City. Again, Gu Fei threw another punch. This punch was much stronger than the first one. However, there was still no eye-catching scene after the punch was thrown. It was an ordinary punch, but it could shake the heaven and earth. When Gu Fei punched, the layer of immortal light in the sky above the Celestial Emperor City immediately rippled like water. The immortal runes on the immortal light actually showed signs of collapsing. What? How is this possible? Everyone turned pale with fright. The strength of the savage outside was too strong. He actually managed to shake the defensive formation personally deployed by Dizun. Everyone in the Celestial Emperor City thought that even Dizun had died in the hands of this savage. It didn't seem impossible for the other party to break the defensive formation deployed by Dizun. Everyone was panicking. Some people wanted to activate the transportation formations in the Celestial Emperor City, hoping to escape from the Celestial Emperor City. Not everyone in the Celestial Emperor City was a subordinate of the primordial Heavenly Emperor. Many of them were guests who had come to congratulate the primordial heavenly emperor. However, these people were all trapped inside the celestial emperor city. Trying to escape? Gu Fei saw an immortal light rushing out from the back of the celestial emperor city. Someone was using the transportation formation. Open for me! Gu Fei displayed his supreme strength and blasted out another punch. This time, he used his full strength and blasted a huge hole in the layer of immortal light with absolute power. The savage is killing his way in! Everyone in the celestial emperor city was scared out of their wits by Gu Fei. They were scrambling to escape, but where could they escape to? However, there were still some people who escaped the celestial emperor city through the transportation formation in the celestial emperor city. Buzz! Gu Feichong slaughtered his way into celestial city and directly shot out a primal chaos sword light. The primal chaos sword light descended from the sky and directly slashed a teleportation array platform in the city lord's mansion into two. Several experts standing on the transportation formation were instantly turned into a few clouds of blood mist. They were directly killed by the primal chaos sword light unleashed by Gu Fei. At this time, Shaoqing followed behind Gu Fei and also killed his way into the celestial emperor city. He went straight to the celestial emperor city with the black rod in his hand and directly smashed the immortal soldiers and generals that came to stop him into a cloud of blood mist. The black rod in Xiaoqing's hand had a great origin. It was a supreme level long rod that the old turtle obtained by chance. Once it smashed down, even an expert stronger than Xiaoqing would be smashed to death. Green Emperor, you are going too far! An old man walked out from the celestial emperor city and directly faced the charging Xiaoqing. He began to fight with Xiaoqing. Humph, the weak are prey to the strong. In my dictionary, there is no such thing as going too far. Xiaoqing swung the black rod and smashed it down on the old man's head. That old man seemed to know how powerful the black rod was. He didn't dare to face Xiaoqing head-on and immediately dodged. Swish! That old man waved his hand. 9 rays of sword light immediately rushed out from his hand and turned into an incomparably sharp sword light, piercing toward Xiaoqing. Humph! Xiaoqing snorted coldly. He directly waved the black rod in his hand and smashed the 9 rays of sword light. After that, he rushed towards the old man with incomparable strength. Chapter 2683. Gu Fei had breached the celestial city and cut a transmission array in the city lord's mansion in half, cutting off the escape route of the powerhouses in the celestial city. He was incomparably powerful as he directly killed his way into the city lord's mansion with his fists. He killed every powerhouse that rushed out from all directions with a single punch. No one could withstand his punch. It was a pair of mystical fists that had already broken away from the limitations of martial arts. They were casually thrown out without any powerful energy fluctuations. Only Tao charm lingered around them. This was the power of the Great Path. Although there were no powerful energy fluctuations emanating from Gu Fei's fists, the power displayed by his fists was many times stronger than when he was at the peak of the great sage realm. Even the incomparably powerful incarnation of the ancient heavenly emperor had been smashed into a mass of blood mist by his fists, let alone the others. Gu Fei, don't go too far! A roar came from the main hall of the city lord's mansion. At this time, Gu Fei had already killed his way to the plaza in front of the main hall of the city lord's mansion. Figures flashed around the plaza as powerhouses constantly rushed over from all directions. These people were die-hard followers of the ancient heavenly emperor. All of them attacked Gu Fei without any regard for their own lives. The entire plaza was stained with blood. There were no corpses on the ground, only bloodstains. This was because everyone who had been hit by Gu Fei's fists, regardless of whether they were immortals or saints, had been completely destroyed and turned into a mass of blood mist. Even the immortal and sage weapons that these people were carrying had been smashed into ashes by Gu Fei's fists and scattered on the ground. The stench of blood was pungent on Guangqing, but Gu Fei was completely unaware of it. His fighting spirit was like a rainbow as his gaze swept across the main hall of the city lord's mansion like cold lightning. He stood in the middle of the plaza with his long hair fluttering even though there was no wind. 9 rays of primal chaos light wandered around his body. The powerful aura of a heavenly venerate made everyone feel despair. He was too powerful. Even the true body of the ancient heavenly emperor might not be able to suppress this fierce person. Am I going too far? Ha ha! What a joke! Gu Fei laughed heartily. Back when he was still weak, didn't the primordial celestial emperor chase him for millions of miles and force him into an ominous land? At this moment, a man in white walked out of the main hall of the city lord's mansion. This was an old man dressed in white. This old man was tall and had a horsetail whisk in his hand. He carried an ancient sword on his back and wore a golden crown on his head. He looked like an immortal. Who are you? Why aren't you running? When Gu Fei saw this Taoist, he could not help feeling somewhat surprised. This person was actually a holy venerate, an immortal Tao holy venerate. He was incredibly powerful and had already reached the realm of returning to his true self. That was because there was no immortal light around his body. Even though he was just standing there, he gave off a feeling as if he was bathing in a spring breeze. If one was not careful, they would be affected by his aura and let down their guard. Of course, with Gu Fei's cultivation, he would not be affected by the old Taoist's aura. My Taoist title is Emergence. As soon as the old Taoist said this, the sky rumbled and the sky changed color. It was as if this title was a terrifying taboo. Emergence Holy Venerate? You! Gu Fei's brows couldn't help but twitch when he heard this. One must know that this title wasn't something that just anyone could use, nor was it something that just anyone could bear. The Emergence Holy Venerate was one of the 9 disciples of the Supreme Tao Ancestor, and the wielder of the Emergence Secret Art. The Supreme Tao Ancestor had passed the Emergence Secret Art to this immortal Tao Holy Venerate. What? You don't believe me? The old Taoist was a little annoyed when he saw Gu Fei looking at him suspiciously. His face immediately darkened. It would be strange if I believed you. If you were the Emergence Holy Venerate, then I would be the Supreme Tao Ancestor. Gu Fei said disdainfully. He did not believe that this guy was the Emergence Holy Venerate at all. After all, if the other party was the Emergence Holy Venerate, then Gu Fei could only run away. The real Emergence Holy Venerate would definitely not be so weak. Countless years had passed, and the Emergence Holy Venerate had obtained the inheritance of the Supreme Tao Ancestor. His cultivation realm was probably higher than that of the human realm's Heavenly Emperor Ziyang. Heavenly Emperor Ziyang was the youngest disciple of the Supreme Tao Ancestor, but he was already a Holy Venerate. Moreover, the Emergence Holy Venerate had followed the Supreme Tao Ancestor for a longer time than Heavenly Emperor Ziyang. How dare you look down on the Supreme Tao Ancestor? You deserve to die. The old Taoist who called himself the Emergence Holy Venerate was furious. He directly attacked Gu Fei and stretched out his right hand to grab Gu Fei. Rumble. The void shook and a black vortex appeared in the old Taoist's palm. The void in front of his palm collapsed and was swallowed by the vortex in his palm. At that moment, Gu Fei felt his body tighten. He was instantly enveloped by a powerful suction force. Then, he flew forward uncontrollably. You don't know the immensity of heaven and earth. How dare you be so arrogant in front of me? I will send you on your way. The old Taoist's face revealed a cruel smile. He thought that this ferocious person was only SOSO and was no match for him at all. In the old Taoist's opinion, the primordial heavenly emperor was really too useless. This person had actually destroyed one of his clones. However, just as the old Taoist thought that he could kill Gu Fei, a fist rapidly enlarged in front of his eyes. Bang! The old Taoist's right eye was punched hard. This punch caused the old Taoist's vision to darken. He staggered and almost fell to the ground. You! The old Taoist was shocked and angry. He never thought that Gu Fei would be able to break through his great technique, and even punch him. What? Aren't you very arrogant? You're even the Emergence Holy Venerate! Bang! Gu Fei fiercely punched the old Taoist's nose again, causing his nose to bleed and his face to cave in. Roar! The old Taoist almost went crazy. He used his killing technique with all his might. An immortal light spread from his body and turned into light blades that slashed in all directions. Screams rang out everywhere. Many of the experts around the square were slashed by the immortal light blades. They were directly killed. Even their primordial spirits couldn't escape. By this time, Gu Fei had already dodged. However, this old Taoist seemed to have a very high status. Even though he had accidentally killed many people, no one dared to say anything. They were all angry, but they didn't dare to say anything. Boom! At this moment, a loud sound came from the city lord's residence. The two huge stone doors were actually sent flying from the outside and smashed inwards. Chapter 2684. Shaoqing charged into the city lord's mansion. He was extremely domineering as he brandished the black rod in his hand. All the experts who charged at him were killed by his black rod. Everyone was extremely shocked at the sight of this. No one dared to charge forward again. They allowed Shaoqing to enter the city lord's mansion and arrive at the side of the square. Gu Fei, I want you dead! The fake Saint Master of Emergence roared as he charged at Gu Fei, who was standing on the square in front of the main hall. He had a ferocious look on his face. He no longer had the demeanor of a reclusive expert that he had when he first appeared. Humph! A fake dares to clamor here? You really don't know what's good for you. Gu Fei looked disdainfully at the fake Saint Master of Emergence who was charging at him. He did not take this so-called Saint Master of Emergence seriously at all. Buzz! The ancient sword on the fake Saint Master of Emergence's back let out a buzzing sound. It then turned into a dazzling sword light and rushed out of its scabbard. An extremely powerful wave of sword chi immediately spread from the sword light. The sword light split the void between heaven and earth as it charged at Gu Fei. The surrounding temperature dropped rapidly due to the impact of the cold sword chi. Gu Fei could not help but feel a little surprised when he sensed the wave of sword chi coming from the sword light. This sword seemed to be very unusual, which made him pay attention to it. However, the holy venerate martial body was extremely powerful. Gu Fei was very confident in his martial body. He directly threw a punch, which collided with the sword light. Clang! A metallic sound rang out when Gu Fei's fist collided with the sword light. The sword light was knocked away by his punch. However, Gu Fei also felt a pain in his fist at the same time. He quickly looked down and saw a blood-red sword mark on his right fist. Beads of blood seeped out from the sword mark. What? Gu Fei was shocked. The opponent's sword could actually injure him. How was this possible? Even if it was a Saint Venerable sword, it should not be able to injure him. With a thought, the sword mark on Gu Fei's fist quickly disappeared. At this moment, the light that the sword had turned into had already shot towards Gu Fei. The ripples of sword chi on the light became even sharper and more powerful. Preposterous! Gu Fei didn't believe it. He waved his fists and smashed them at the sword light. The clanging sound was endless, and the sword light was constantly sent flying by his fists. At that moment, the person who was even more shocked than Gu Fei was the fake Saint Venerate of the Emergence Saint Venerate. He knew very well how powerful his sword was. In the past, he had only needed to take out this sword to kill his opponents. It was the same even for opponents who were also Saint Venerates. Many Saint Venerates had died to this sword. The sword was stained with the blood of more than one Saint Venerate. The fake Saint Venerate of the Emergence Saint Venerate, whose face was covered in blood after being punched twice by Gu Fei, sat down with his legs crossed. He operated his mysterious technique and activated the sword with all his might. Runes appeared on the sword light, and a ripple of sword chi spread out from the sword light. It was so powerful that even the heavens and the earth paled in comparison. Under the impact of the sword chi, transparent ripples appeared in the void, like transparent ripples on water. Kill! The fake Saint Venerate of the Emergence Saint Venerate performed a seal with both hands and sent a rune into the sword light. Buzz! The divine sword vibrated, and a ripple of sword chi that made even Gu Fei's heart palpitate erupted from the sword light. The power of the divine sword seemed to have been detonated. Swoosh! The sword light was like a rainbow as it descended from the sky. Runes circled around the sword light, as if the sword of heaven was punishing Gu Fei. It emitted a terrifying power that could destroy heaven and earth. At that moment, Gu Fei's fists were densely covered with sword marks. This sword was incredible. It had definitely surpassed the level of a Saint Venerate. It was definitely a quasi-supreme sword. Although the emergent Saint Venerate was a fake, his sword was a genuine quasi-supreme sword. The power of this quasi-supreme sword was fully unleashed. Even though Gu Fei had an extremely powerful Holy Venerate martial body, it was difficult for him to compete with it at this moment. Oh no! Gu Fei's face turned extremely serious as he faced the peerless sword light descending from the sky. He had left the mountain and river cauldron in the human realm. Otherwise, he could have used it to fight against this sword. Of course, he still had other extreme saint weapons on him. Gu Fei did not think too much about it. After all, the sword light had already arrived. There was no time for him to think. He flipped his right hand and a big black saber immediately appeared in his hand. As soon as the black saber appeared, a domineering aura immediately spread from it. This aura made the hearts of all living beings in the world palpitate. Clang! Gu Fei directly swung the big black saber in his hand at the sword light descending from the sky. The big black saber and the sword light collided, producing a metallic sound. Immediately, the sword let out a cry and was actually sent flying by the big black saber. How is this possible? Seeing this scene, the fake emergent Saint Venerate was extremely shocked. His opponent's inconspicuous big black saber was actually so powerful that it could send his sword flying. I'll send you on your way. Gu Fei took a step forward and instantly arrived in front of the fake emergent Saint Venerate. He directly swung his saber at the fake emergent Saint Venerate's head. However, just as Gu Fei made his move, the fake emergent Saint Venerate had already crushed a jade talisman. A ball of immortal light directly rushed out of the broken jade talisman and enveloped his entire body. Then, with a swoosh, he and the ball of immortal light instantly disappeared into the void. Gu Fei's saber slashed through the air. He withdrew his saber in time. Otherwise, if he had really slashed down, the entire city lord's mansion would have probably been split in half. He fled? Gu Fei was slightly surprised. This guy was too cautious. He fled before the outcome of the battle had been decided. At this moment, the sword that was sent flying by Gu Fei's saber also broke through the void and disappeared without a trace. A psychic sword. It's only one step away from transforming into a real supreme sword. This sword must have an extraordinary origin. Gu Fei muttered to himself. Big brother! At this moment, Shaoqing walked over. I'll leave this place to you. Those who surrender will not be killed, but those who don't will be killed without mercy, Gu Fei said to Shaoqing. Then, he directly entered the rear hall of the city lord's mansion. The rear hall was where the city lord of Celestial City kept all kinds of treasures. After receiving the order, Shaoqing immediately took action. Chapter 2685. The Golden Spiritual Ape clan had always been domineering. Yuan Hong was no exception. His clan was naturally warlike. In the distant past, they were once known as the War Clan. Boom! Yuan Hong used all his strength to send an immortal general flying thousands of meters away. His golden hair danced in the wind, displaying his incomparable battle prowess. He had a supreme bloodline and heaven-defying talent. After being in seclusion for so long, his cultivation had already reached the Saint Sovereign realm. This clan was known as the War Clan, and their battle prowess far surpassed their opponents of the same level. Roar! The immortal general roared furiously at the sky. His voice shook the sky as a surge of immortal energy erupted from his body. It was so powerful that even Yuan Hong was shaken. Although this immortal general looked young, the immortal armor he wore was extremely ancient. He held an ancient battle spear in his hand, looking like a war immortal from the primordial era. This immortal general was the protector of the heavenly sovereign palace. Although he was only an immortal general, The battle prowess he displayed was absolutely shocking. This level of battle prowess was probably no weaker than the Fire Emperor. Bzz. The immortal general shook the spear in his hand. An immortal light immediately shot out from the spear, turning into a heavenly river that pierced towards Yuan Hong. Yuan Hong's rod smashed down, directly shattering the immortal light. Then, he took a step forward and instantly appeared before the immortal general, smashing down with his rod. In the face of absolute power, immortal arts were useless. Yuan Hong's simple and direct attack was enough to break his opponent's immortal arts. Bzz. The instant Yuan Hong's golden rod smashed down, it emitted a dazzling golden light that dyed the entire heaven and earth golden. Within the golden light, runes could be faintly seen. The power of the metal element sealed the entire space. Just in time. The immortal general's eyes shot out two purple lightning bolts. The spear in his hand pierced upwards. Immortal runes appeared on the surface of the spear, breaking through the layers of golden light. The ancient battle spear displayed great power. The tip of the spear directly pierced into the golden rod. However, Yuan Hong's strike was shockingly powerful. The spear in the immortal general's hand was immediately bent, and his wrist was shattered. Roar! Yuan Hong bellowed as he exerted more strength in his hands. An extremely ferocious force erupted from the golden rod, directly knocking away the spear in the immortal general's hand. Bam! The rod smashed into the immortal general's right shoulder. The ancient immortal armor on the immortal general's body shone, a wave of immortal Tao power surging. Even so, the sound of bones shattering could still be heard from the immortal general's body. Then, his entire body fell from the sky like a meteorite falling from the sky. Boom! He smashed into the ground. The earth shook, and the ground collapsed. Dust rose high into the sky, and a bottomless pit appeared on the ground. At this moment, everyone in the Heaven Empyrean Palace was dumbfounded when they saw this scene. Some of the elders in the Heaven Empyrean Palace knew the identity of that immortal general, which made them even more astonished. Roar! A deep roar came from the depths of the earth, causing the entire region to tremble. A terrifying Saint Venerable energy surged out from the depths of the earth. Kill! Yuan Hong rushed down from the sky like a golden sun descending from the sky, directly falling into the ground. The powerful metal elemental power was vast and mighty. The eruption of the battle caused the earth to undulate like waves. Shouts could be heard from the depths of the earth as the ground sank and cracked. The person fighting against Yuan Hong was an ancient immortal sovereign. Even if he wasn't a primordial sovereign, he wasn't too far off. Apart from the 9 primordial sovereigns under the Supreme Tao Ancestor, there were also many others who had reached the Saint Venerable realm. This ancient immortal sovereign was most likely not one of them. At this time, in the Celestial City, Gu Fei directly entered the depths of the City Lord's mansion and arrived in front of the treasury of the City Lord's mansion. He discovered that this place was covered densely in symbols. It was unknown just how many layers of formations were laid here. Immortal light swirled about. Gu Fei couldn't help but rejoice. This treasury was protected by layers of formations, so there were naturally many good things inside. As long as these formations were broken, everything inside would belong to him. Thinking of this, he couldn't help but look forward to it. One should know that this was the treasury of the primordial Heavenly Empyrean. The primordial Heavenly Empyrean had dominated the Eastern domain for countless years. There would definitely be a large number of treasures in this treasury. At this time, another battle broke out in front of the City Lord's mansion. Shaoqing wielded a black rod and fought against 2 saints. Green Emperor, leave your life here! A black-bearded middle-aged saint extended his hand. A giant green hand immediately appeared in the void and grabbed at Shaoqing. Rumble! The space around them was crumbling. The giant hand emanated incredibly powerful power of the divine path, shattering the space around them right away, displaying incredible might. Humph! Shaoqing didn't say anything. He directly smashed down with his rod and the giant green hand immediately collapsed in the void. Then, he instantly approached the saint and was about to make his move. At this time, the other saint also made his move. A beam of cold light directly shot at Xiaoqing's forehead at an extremely fast speed. Xiaoqing was shocked and quickly tilted his head. The beam of cold light brushed past his hair, causing a few strands of hair to flutter in the air. "How dare you!" Xiaoqing reached out and touched his hand. There were actually some blood stains on his hand, which made him furious. "Die!" Xiaoqing directly pounced at the saint who had launched a sneak attack. He swung the black rod in his hand and directly smashed it down on the saint's head. At this time, the beam of cold light flew back from afar and pierced towards Xiaoqing. It was a diamond bracelet. There were 9 barren patterns unique to saints branded within it. It triggered a powerful saint-level energy and displayed terrifying power. Even Xiaoqing was injured. He had the true dragon's sacred body, which was extremely powerful and far surpassed ordinary saints. "You don't know what's good for you!" Xiaoqing roared and directly punched forward. A huge dragon immediately rushed out of his fist and let out an earth-shattering dragon roar, pouncing towards the saint. This was a killing technique of the dragon clan, the true dragon fist. At the same time, the black rod in Xiaoqing's hand smashed behind him. With a clang, the diamond bracelet was immediately smashed into pieces. The 9 runes contained within the diamond bracelet immediately dissipated in the void. "What?" The saint's expression immediately changed. The diamond bracelet had been smashed, and he was also affected. Boom! At this time, Xiaoqing's true dragon fist had already arrived. With a muffled sound, the saint was actually sent flying by the huge dragon. Bam! With a loud sound, his back slammed heavily onto a stone pillar. It directly broke the stone pillar into several pieces, and then he rolled on the ground. Wah! The saint stood up from the ground. His face was flushed red, and then he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of scarlet blood. The front of his shirt was instantly stained with blood. "You!" The saint was extremely shocked. He had never expected the Green Emperor to be so powerful. He had just attacked and he had already spat out blood. How was this possible? Just as Xiaoqing sent the saint flying, a sword chime sounded. A dazzling sword light rushed out from the body of the black-bearded saint and slashed towards Xiaoqing. "You overestimate yourself." A cold smile appeared on Xiaoqing's face. He directly waved the black rod in his hand and smashed it towards the sword light. Clang! The black rod smashed against the sword light. Instantly, sparks flew in all directions. The sword light dissipated, and the body of the sword was smashed into several pieces. The inscriptions within it collapsed and transformed into scrap metal. The black-bearded saint's expression changed drastically. He retreated in panic. The destruction of his natal sword was a huge blow to him. After all, most of his abilities were on his natal sword. "You want to kill me with just this bit of ability? How laughable!" Xiaoqing glanced disdainfully at the 2 saints. "The black rod in your hand." The black-bearded saint stared at the black rod in Xiaoqing's hand. He was extremely shocked. This black rod was incredible. It could actually destroy a saint weapon with ease. The 2 saints found it hard to believe that an inconspicuous black rod could actually possess such might. "You only realize now? It's too late." Xiaoqing did not give the 2 saints any chance. He directly charged forward and smashed the black-bearded saint into a mist of blood. Both his body and soul were destroyed. The other saint wanted to escape. He transformed into a ray of divine light and shot into the sky. "Do you think you can leave?" Xiaoqing laughed coldly. After that, he stretched out his hand and executed the true dragon claw. An enormous dragon claw immediately appeared in the sky and grabbed the ray of divine light that the saint had transformed into. He did not hesitate and directly destroyed the saint's body and soul. Too weak. Old Yuan's subordinates are really too weak. Xiaoqing shook his head and glanced at the crowd. At this moment, all the cultivators standing around the square were extremely terrified. The person before them was simply a terrifying god of death. The square in front of the city lord's mansion was extremely silent. No one dared to speak. Everyone looked at Xiaoqing with fear in their eyes. Shaoqing paid no attention to these people. He directly walked into the main hall of the city lord's mansion. After that, he entered the back hall and arrived at the treasury of the city lord's mansion. You dealt with them so quickly? Gu Fei asked when he saw Shaoqing arrive. They're just some small fries. It's not difficult to deal with them. Shaoqing was very confident. Come and take a look. This treasury is not simple, Gu Fei said to Shaoqing. Upon hearing this, Shaoqing immediately walked over and carefully observed the runes on the treasury with Gu Fei. At this moment, the void thousands of miles away from the ancient Yuan celestial Thearcha's lair suddenly collapsed. A spatial door appeared in the void. Chapter 2686. That night, countless cultivators in the eastern land were unable to sleep. Someone actually dared to attack the celestial emperor of the eastern land, and had even broken into Celestial City. When the news spread, all the cultivators were shocked to the extreme. Even the cultivators in the other regions of the heavenly realm had received the news. Who is Gu Fei? He's actually so powerful to directly attack Yuan Gu's lair. I've heard of this name before. Someone said something like that. Back then, Gu Fei caused quite a commotion in the eastern land of the heavenly realm. He was chased by the celestial emperor for thousands of miles and had no choice but to retreat to a dangerous place. Almost all the cultivators in the eastern land of the heavenly realm knew about this matter. Especially when the Violet Emperor was killed by Gu Fei, it shocked everyone. One should know that the Violet Emperor was the only son of the celestial emperor of the eastern land, Yuan Gu. He was second only to the celestial emperor. It's actually him. He actually appeared again. Someone knew who Gu Fei was. At this time, the moon was shining brightly in the sky. A portal appeared in the void thousands of miles away from Celestial City. Groups of soldiers wearing black armor and holding spears walked out of the portal. Soon, a large number of black-armored soldiers stood in front of the void door. No one spoke. Countless silhouettes stood there quietly. Only the sounds of armors colliding could be heard. These were the black demon soldiers of the Xianming sect. Every soldier emitted a powerful and fierce aura, as if they were gods of death that had crawled out of hell. This is our last trump card. Saintess, are we really going to stake it all on this? Elder Yankuan, who commanded the black demon soldiers, said to the Saintess. Yes, aren't we being too rash? You should know that Yuan Gu is known for having thousands of incarnations. Before we kill his true body, I think it's better for us to preserve our strength for now. The Black Tiger Taoist also said. How can we accomplish great things if we are afraid of the slightest thing? This is a golden opportunity for our mysterious dark sect to make a comeback. If we miss this opportunity, it will be difficult for our mysterious dark sect to rise again. The mysterious underworld Saintess said disapprovingly. Her attitude was very firm. While Gu Fei and the others were still around, it was not impossible to take down Yuan Gu's lair in one go. Moreover, the chances of this happening were very high. The only variable was the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor. No one knew whether or not his true body would descend. It must be known that the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor would lose a great deal of face if his lair was lost. Since sect leader Saintess has said so, let's go all out! Elder Yan Kun said excitedly. He knew that such an opportunity was fleeting. Moreover, Gu Fei and the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor were both at the heavenly venerate level. The formation laid down by the Yuan ancient heavenly emperor naturally could not stop them. However, when Gu Fei and Shaoqing broke the 20th immortal formation, a terrifying aura immediately spread out. 9 terrifying sword chi rushed out and pierced towards Gu Fei and Shaoqing. Gu Fei quickly pulled Shaoqing behind him. Then, he extended his hand and sent out a palm strike. The vast and mighty primal chaos chi immediately blocked the 9 sword lights. The 9 extremely sharp sword lights immediately dissipated in the void. This is... Gu Fei was extremely shocked. He saw a stone carving floating in front of him. The stone carving was surrounded by primal chaos chi, and there were 9 sword scars on it. A terrifying sword intent was emanating from the 9 sword scars. Big brother, this is... Xiaoqing walked out from behind Gu Fei with lingering fear. The 9 sword lights were too powerful. If it wasn't for Gu Fei, he would have died under the 9 sword lights. I didn't expect someone to leave behind such a terrifying sword intent. Gu Fei muttered to himself as he stared at the stone floating in front of him with incomparable shock. Sword intent? Xiaoqing couldn't help but be startled when he heard this. He had almost died under a sword intent just now. This was too unbelievable. How could a sword intent be so powerful? The person who left behind this sword intent was very powerful and terrifying. Even time couldn't erase this sword intent. Chapter 2687. This was an ancient stone carving that exuded an ancient aura. Sword light circulated above the 9 sword scars. The sword light on the 9 sword scars wasn't intense, but the sword intent was extremely sharp. The surrounding temperature dropped, and the void seemed to be frozen. Xiaoqing was extremely shocked. This sword intent was really extraordinary. Although he was already a saint-grade existence, he still couldn't withstand this sword intent. It should be known that he was a sacred dragon, so his constitution was naturally much stronger than that of an ordinary saint. An ordinary saint would not dare to stay here. Boss, this is a treasure! Xiaoqing exclaimed excitedly. I also know that this thing is a treasure, but it isn't that easy to obtain. Gu Fei's eyes lit up. Step back first, Gu Fei told Xiaoqing. All right. Xiaoqing nodded and stepped back. Given his current cultivation base, he definitely wouldn't be able to withstand the sword intent on the stone carving if it was activated. Gu Fei carefully walked forward after seeing Xiaoqing step back. He saw that the stone carving was suspended in the void, as if it was being supported by an invisible force. This was the last layer of the seal. As long as he could obtain this stone carving, he would be able to open the door to the treasury. Gu Fei couldn't help but admire the ancient Yuan Heavenly Emperor for actually doing this. If his sacred venerate martial body hadn't been strong enough, even he would have been injured if he hadn't been able to defend himself. At the moment, there was still a sharp pain in his right hand. Although it seemed like he had easily blocked the 9 sword lights when the sword intent had erupted, a trace of sword chi had still invaded his palm. Although he had immediately expelled the sword chi that had invaded his palm, he still felt waves of pain in his hand. Gu Fei noticed that the stone inscription in front of him had changed after he had only taken 3 steps. The sword gleams emitted by the 9 sword marks on the stone inscription gradually became stronger. At this time, Gu Fei was shocked to discover that there were actually Tao patterns faintly appearing in the void. Like a spider web, they were densely packed and wrapped around the stone inscription. You're still using this move? Gu Fei couldn't help frowning. It seemed that the primordial celestial arch was truly sinister. There were actually countless Tao runes imprinted in the void. As long as someone approached the stone carvings, those Tao runes would trigger the sword intent within them. Buzz! As Gu Fei thought about it, the void trembled. The power of the word nothing spread out from his body. The Tao patterns in the void around him were immediately turned into nothingness by the word nothing. At that moment, the stone carving floating in the air began to shake. The 9 sword marks released a supreme sword intent. It was as if an unparalleled expert of the sword had appeared in the world. What's going on? In the back hall of the City Lord Palace, outside the entrance to the treasury, Xiaoqing was extremely shocked. A terrifying sword intent had erupted from within. Rumble! The entire City Lord Palace immediately began to shake. Everyone was extremely shocked, as they didn't know what was going on. Cold sword chi surged out from the depths of the City Lord Palace. Everyone felt a chill run down their spines, as if a peerless divine weapon had been pressed against their throats. Just as Gu Fei was using all his strength to resist the peerless sword intent that had erupted from the stone inscription, the mysterious underworld saintess had already led the black demon soldiers and charged towards the Sky Emperor Palace in the sky. The square formation of 50,000 black demon soldiers was like a black cloud as they charged over from the distance, their ferocious aura filling the air. At that moment, All the subordinates of the primordial celestial Darch in the Sky Emperor Palace were extremely shocked. They had never imagined that the mysterious underworld sect would actually jump out at this time. Furthermore, the fact that the mysterious underworld sect still had such strength was simply unbelievable. Kill! Within the heavenly sovereign palace, squads of silver-armored soldiers quickly assembled, and then, under the leadership of an immortal general, charged out of the heavenly sovereign palace. This was a remnant army with less than 10,000 soldiers that had survived the heavenly tribulation. Only these 100,000 celestial Darch soldiers were left. Moreover, these less than 10,000 celestial Emperor battle soldiers were not the strongest battle soldiers. Instead, they were the weakest battle soldiers. This was because the stronger battle soldiers and generals had their tribulation fire ignited by the tribulation attracting force and died under the heavenly tribulation. Kill! The mysterious underworld Saintess led the 50,000 black demon soldiers and charged towards the celestial Darch soldiers. Boom! It was as if two torrents had collided in an instant. In an instant, many figures fell from the sky and blood splattered everywhere. This was an immortal war, so countless immortals were destined to fall. Roar! Taoist Black Tiger roared, then opened his mouth and inhaled. Immediately, 1,000 celestial emperor warriors were swallowed into his stomach. He was extremely ferocious. Die, you evil creature! When an immortal general saw this, he immediately charged over and clashed with He Hu Taoist. At this time, Elder Yan Kun also attacked with all his might. A black moon floated behind his head and emitted rays of crescent-shaped black light that slashed in all directions. The celestial Darch soldiers were struck by the black light and instantly turned into ashes. Both their bodies and souls were destroyed. The Xianming Saintess released beams of black light from her hands, which instantly pierced through the bodies of a large number of Celestial Emperor's combat soldiers. In an instant, the bodies of these Celestial Emperor's combat soldiers shriveled up rapidly, turning into skin and bones. It was as if their spirit chi had been completely devoured by the black light. The Celestial Darch soldiers were utterly defeated. The Saint-level warlord was killed by Yan Kun and the Black Tiger Taoist, and nearly 10,000 Celestial Darch soldiers were killed. Everyone in the Sky Emperor Palace couldn't help but be shocked when they saw this scene. They couldn't believe that the black demon soldiers of the mysterious underworld sect were so powerful. Moreover, there were 3 saint-level and above experts in the enemy's camp. The experts in the Sky Emperor Palace directly activated an even more powerful formation to seal the Sky Emperor Palace. How many casualties? At this time, the mysterious underworld Saintess was reorganizing the black demon soldiers. There aren't many casualties. Only a little more than 1,000 soldiers were killed, the Black Tiger Taoist said. Very good. The mysterious underworld Saintess was overjoyed. She could finally vent the anger that she had suppressed for many years. This great victory made her excited and excited. Is the thing ready? The mysterious underworld Saintess asked Yan Kun. It's ready. Yan Kun nodded and said. Then let's do it. The mysterious underworld Saintess said. A sharp light flashed in her eyes. Yan Kun nodded and took out a big red gourd from his waist. Then, he walked forward and came to the front of the Sky Emperor Palace. Without saying anything, he pulled out the stopper of the gourd and patted the bottom of the gourd. Boom! Chapter 2688. Yellow Spring Water. The experts in the Heavenly Emperor Palace exclaimed when they saw the yellow water gushing out from the gourd in Yan Kun's hand towards the Heavenly Emperor Palace. An aura of decay and death spread out from the yellow water. Even the void was corroded by the yellow water and was silently annihilated. When the yellow water sprayed onto the protective immortal light of the Heavenly Emperor Palace, it produced a sound like a piece of red-hot iron being dropped into cold water. The layer of immortal light actually emitted white smoke. The immortal runes on the immortal light immediately dimmed. Even the paragon-level immortal runes were corroded. What? This is really the yellow spring water. At this moment, no one had any doubts anymore. Only the most terrifying evil water in the world could have such power to corrode a paragon-level immortal rune. In fact, the yellow spring water could theoretically corrode everything in the world, regardless of whether it was an immortal item or a demonic item. This is bad. The experts in the Heavenly Emperor Palace couldn't help but be shocked. They didn't expect the Xianming sect to be able to find something like the yellow spring water. One should know that the yellow spring water could only be found in the netherworld. It was a terrifying evil water formed by the convergence of endless death chi. Where the endless death chi gathered, a trace of vitality could be produced and turned into sacred life essence. However, there were times when it couldn't be turned into life essence. Life essence and the yellow spring water were two extremes. One had endless vitality, while the other contained endless death chi. Rumble! The yellow spring water gushed out from the gourd in Elder Yen Kun's hand and turned into a river that rushed towards the Heavenly Emperor Palace. The endless death chi kept corroding the layer of immortal light that enveloped the Heavenly Emperor Palace. The paragon-level immortal rune was being corroded and dimmed. It seemed like it would be corroded by the yellow spring water at any time. What should we do? Everyone in the Heavenly Emperor Palace panicked. One should know that the Xianming sect's 50,000 black demon soldiers were outside, and there were also 3 paragon-level existences holding the line. Such a force was definitely enough to sweep the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Hurry up and activate the teleportation formation. Let's escape! Someone shouted. Yes, retreat for now and preserve our strength. Someone nodded. You can't escape. There were also people with surging battle intent who wanted to fight alongside the black demon soldiers led by the Xianming Saintess. These people were all loyal to the primordial celestial arch. These people were not afraid of death. They wanted to perish together with the Xianming Saintess and the others. Are you stupid? What we need to do now is to preserve our strength and kill our way back. We can't sacrifice ourselves for nothing. Someone shouted. Humph. These are just excuses for cowards like you. Those who wanted to fight loudly berated. What preserving strength? It was all bullshit. The purpose of these people was just to survive. What a blockhead. He doesn't know how to be flexible at all. Someone said angrily. Let's go. If they want to die, then let them. Someone said disapprovingly. He would never perish together with the Heaven Emperor Palace. Nothing was more important than his own life. Haha, these fellows are really funny. Things have already come to this, and they're still fighting amongst themselves. They're really a bunch of pigs. Black Tiger Taoist laughed heartily. Hearing Black Tiger Taoist's words, everyone in the Heaven Emperor Palace's expression changed. This was really not the time for internal strife. They had to unite against a common enemy. At this time, the battle between Yuan Hong and immortal Venerable Gu had also reached its climax. Boom! With a loud sound, a figure broke through the ground and rushed out of the ground. His entire body was shrouded in divine light, and immortal runes were circling around his body, emitting a terrifying immortal aura. Immortal Venerable Gu rushed out of the ground and was about to kill the Xianming Saintess and the others. However, at this time, a figure also broke through the ground and rushed out of the ground, blocking immortal Venerable Gu's path. Your opponent is me. Yuan Hong held the golden staff in his hand and directly smashed it towards immortal Venerable Gu's head. The golden staff was as heavy as a mountain, causing the void under it to tremble and crack continuously. Damned monkey, you're courting death. Immortal Venerable Gu said angrily. His body shook and figures rushed out of his body. A total of 9 figures stood around him. Boom! An incarnation soared into the sky and displayed endless immortal power, blocking the golden staff that smashed down from the sky. Yuan Hong only felt a strong force coming from the staff, causing his hands to go numb. The golden staff in his hand was almost sent flying. What? Yuan Hong's shock was no small matter. At this moment, the other 8 figures surrounded him, each of them giving off an incomparably powerful aura. Kill! Yuan Hong became stronger and stronger. He directly waved the golden staff in his hand and swept it at the figures. The powerful force shook the void and forced the 9 figures to retreat. He crazily injected the power of desolation into the golden staff in his hand. Buzz. The golden staff vibrated and 9 golden runes appeared on the golden staff, emitting an ancient and powerful aura. The true power of the golden staff was stimulated. This was a treasure of the Golden Spirit Ape clan. It was a weapon left behind by the Supreme Divine Ape and possessed great power. This is... When that immortal Venerable Gu sensed the aura of the golden staff, his expression changed. The golden staff in his opponent's hand was actually an impressive divine weapon. The void collapsed and the ground sank. That immortal Venerable Gu was directly sent flying by the power of the golden staff as he vomited large mouthfuls of blood. The 9 incarnations of that immortal Venerable Gu were instantly destroyed by Yuan Hong's golden staff. Immortal Venerable Gu quickly retreated and dodged the golden staff. His expression was extremely ugly. You? Hand over your life! Yuan Hong roared and charged forward. The golden staff in his hand emitted a resplendent golden beam. The 9 runes seemed like they were about to rush out of the golden staff. The aura of the great Tao was vast. Immortal Venerable Gu did not dare to clash head-on with Yuan Hong. The awakening of a supreme divine weapon was not something he could fight against. He did not want to die in such a useless manner. The speed of the 2 figures was extremely fast. Soon, Immortal Venerable Gu and Yuan Hong's figures disappeared under the night sky, without a trace. Seeing that Immortal Venerable Gu was defeated, the cultivators in the Heavenly Emperor Palace felt even more despair. While Yuan Hong was chasing after Immortal Venerable Gu, in the depths of the Heavenly Emperor Palace, Gu Fei was struggling to contend against the supreme sword intent that erupted from the stone inscription. Swish! A sword light flashed. A bloody wound immediately appeared on Gu Fei's right shoulder. Blood seeped out from the wound. Even if his martial body was incomparably strong, it was still hard to heal in a short period of time. At this time, Gu Fei's body was already covered in blood. There were many wounds on his body, all caused by the supreme sword intent from the stone inscription. Preposterous! Gu Fei's current situation was not optimistic. It was not an easy task to take away that stone inscription. Bang! Gu Fei took another step forward. This step was incomparably heavy. At this time, his body emitted the power of the word nihility. Immortal runes were constantly being destroyed around him. At this time, he was only 1 step away from the stone inscription that was floating in the void. He could touch it just by reaching out his hand. However, the sword intent from the stone inscription was too powerful. Gu Fei only felt that there was a huge force blocking his way. He was only 1 step away, but he could no longer take that step. Buzz! The stone inscription trembled unceasingly. The supreme sword intent caused Gu Fei's heart to palpitate. He found it hard to believe that only 9 sword scars were left behind. Even someone as powerful as him could not approach it. How did the primordial Heavenly Emperor move this stone inscription here? Gu Fei was very curious. Gu Fei did not believe it. He directly used one of the 9 secrets of Immortal Tao, the Ascension Secret Technique. An unimaginably powerful energy burst out from his body. He reached out with his right hand and struggled to grab the stone inscription in front of him. With the support of the Ascension Secret Technique, Gu Fei's right hand broke through the layers of power and finally grabbed the stone inscription. However, the moment Gu Fei's right hand grabbed the stone inscription, a world-destroying sword intent surged from the stone inscription into his body. Pfft! Gu Fei coughed up a mouthful of blood. He felt a great impact as the sword intent ravaged his body. Roar! Gu Fei roared and endured it with all his might. At the same time, the power of the Ascension Secret Technique, one of the 9 secrets of Immortal Tao, erupted from his body. The damaged body immediately began to repair itself. However, Gu Fei's body was still pierced by the sword light formed from the sword intent. His body constantly glowed with blood. Soon, Gu Fei's body was covered in blood. Even though he had used the Ascension Secret Technique, it was difficult for him to repair the damage caused by the sword intent. Gu Fei's situation was terrible. The terrifying sword intent that had invaded his body could destroy his body, martial body, and even his spirit at any time. Just as Gu Fei was in danger, the layer of immortal light covering the heavenly Emperor Palace was finally corroded by the yellow spring water, creating a large hole. "Ha ha, brats, it's time for you to die!" When Taoist Black Tiger saw this scene, he shouted happily. "Collect!" Elder Yan Kun slapped the bottom of the gourd. A heaven-devouring power rushed out of the gourd and absorbed the yellow spring water. "Kill!" The Xianming Holy Maiden did not hesitate. She led the black demon warriors and charged into the heavenly Emperor Palace. Battle cries rang out from within the palace. At the same time, some people used the transportation formation to escape from the heavenly Emperor Palace. These people claimed to be conserving their strength, but in reality, they were afraid of death and were unwilling to fight the Xianming Holy Maiden and the others. Chapter 2689. The Xianming Saintess led the black demon warriors and swept through the entire celestial Emperor Palace. Very soon, all those who were loyal to the primordial heavenly emperor were killed. The Xianming sect did not expend much effort to occupy the entire celestial Emperor Palace. Even the Xianming Saintess and the others were surprised. They thought that they would face fierce resistance. Rumble! Just as the Xianming Saintess occupied the celestial Emperor Palace, Celestial City on the ground suddenly shook. A powerful sword intent erupted and an incomparably huge silhouette appeared in the sky above Celestial City. "What's happening?" The Xianming Saintess and the others in the Celestial Emperor Palace were extremely shocked. It was a vague silhouette, but the aura it emitted made even the saints palpitate. Countless people frantically escaped from Celestial City. Some of them couldn't escape in time and were directly killed by the sword light emitted from the city. This sword intent. The Xianming Saintess couldn't help but be extremely shocked. An unimaginable change had happened in Celestial City. Gu Fei and Shaoqing seemed to still be in the city. Could it be them? The Xianming Saintess was shocked. At this moment, the silhouette in the sky above Celestial City gradually became clearer. It stood in the void just like that, but it was like a supreme being had appeared in the world. "It's just a sword intent. How can it be so powerful?" The Black Tiger Taoist and the other saints felt their souls trembling. The aura emitted by this silhouette frightened them to the extreme. It was as if a peerless divine sword was pressed against their throats. Those with weaker cultivations were already extremely frightened. They collapsed on the ground and couldn't even stand up. However, at this moment, Gu Fei encountered a great danger. The sword intent that erupted from the stone carving was unprecedentedly powerful. This sword intent actually wanted to invade his body. If this sword intent succeeded in seizing his body, he would become a walking corpse that only knew how to kill and become a peerless sword demon. Roar! Gu Fei raised his head and roared furiously. An incomparably sharp sword light shot out from his eyes, piercing through the void. The stone carving in his hand had already become dim and lusterless. Its surface was densely covered with cracks, as if it would shatter if he exerted more force. The sword intent on the stone inscription had already invaded Gu Fei's body. Preposterous! No matter who you are, you can't suppress me! My heart is invincible! Gu Fei roared in anger. His expression was malevolent as he contended against the sword intent in his body. Even if it was the sword intent left behind by a supreme being, it wouldn't be able to destroy his will. Rumble! Thunderous sounds came from within Gu Fei's body. His bones and tendons vibrated and let out thunderous sounds. 9 primal chaos Tao patterns appeared on his body and sealed him. A holy venerate level martial body and a holy venerate level primal chaos Tao pattern. When these two powers fused together, it was definitely not as simple as 1 + 1. However, even so, Gu Fei's martial body still emitted blood light from time to time. It was pierced by the sword intent, causing blood to splatter and stain the soil beneath his feet. This was the blood of a holy venerate. Moreover, it was the blood of a martial Tao holy venerate. It contained an enormous amount of essence qi. Every drop was comparable to a divine medicine. If an ordinary cultivator could refine a drop of blood essence, their cultivation would definitely improve tremendously. However, at this moment, Gu Fei's blood essence was constantly flowing out. To an ordinary cultivator, it was definitely a waste. This was all precious blood. I don't believe that I can't suppress a mere sword intent. Gu Fei was determined. With a thought, a black saber immediately rushed out from his body and floated above his head. A peerlessly violent and ferocious aura immediately spread out from the black saber. Roar! A dragon's roar seemed to resound in the void. The shadow of a huge dragon emerged from the black saber and let out a long roar towards the sky. At this time, Gu Fei had no choice but to use the peerless azure dragon saber. Under the impact of the invincible sword intent, the deity within the azure dragon saber actually showed signs of awakening. As soon as the peerless azure dragon saber appeared, the incomparably huge silhouette standing in the sky above Celestial City immediately became dim, as if it could disappear at any time. Roar! The black dragon soared into the sky and directly minced the illusory silhouette into pieces. Then, it let out a long roar towards the sky with unparalleled ferocity. In terms of ferocity, there were really not many creatures that could compare to the primordial azure dragon. The primordial azure dragon was a peerless, ferocious dragon. That sword intent seemed to have its own consciousness. It actually restrained itself and hid within Gu Fei's body. However, the deity within the peerless azure dragon saber did not intend to let go of this sword intent. The huge dragon immediately swooped down from the sky and entered Gu Fei's body. Crap! Gu Fei was startled. He exerted force with his right hand and actually crushed the ancient stone inscription into dust. However, the most terrifying thing did not happen. The shadow of the dragon directly passed through his body and actually destroyed the consciousness of the sword intent that had just formed. Then, the peerless azure dragon saber turned into a black light and entered Gu Fei's body. At this time, Gu Fei was like a statue. He stood there motionlessly. After the peerless azure dragon saber destroyed the consciousness of the sword intent, a lot of things appeared in his mind. 9 heaven-punishing swords. Gu Fei was incomparably excited. The 9 sword scars on the stone inscription were actually 9 kinds of invincible sword intent. They were called the 9 heaven-punishing swords. Every one of them had the power to destroy the world. He felt that the sword intent of the 9 heaven-punishing swords was somewhat similar to the soaring immortal sword of the primordial heavenly emperor. However, these 9 sword intents were even more mysterious and unfathomable than the soaring immortal sword of the primordial heavenly emperor. Ha ha! Gu Fei was incomparably excited. The sword Dao of the primordial heavenly emperor was nothing in his eyes. The sword intent of the 9 heaven-punishing swords was definitely at the supreme level. Even if the true body of the primordial heavenly emperor came, Gu Fei was still confident that he could slay him with his sword. Of course, this was only Gu Fei's self-confidence. The true body of the primordial heavenly emperor was mysterious and unfathomable. No one knew how powerful his true body was. At this time, the incomparably terrifying sword intent disappeared completely. Everyone heaved a sigh of relief. Big brother, are you all right? Xiaoqing rushed over from afar. He had been forced to retreat by the sword intent emanating from the stone inscription. Ha ha! How could anything happen to me? Gu Fei laughed heartily. Come, let's work together to open the treasury and see what's inside. Gu Fei hugged Xiaoqing tightly before letting him go. Big brother, where's the stone inscription? Xiaoqing discovered that the stone inscription containing the peerless sword intent had disappeared. It's under your feet. Gu Fei pointed to the pile of dust under Xiaoqing's feet. What? This? Xiaoqing looked down and was shocked. The ancient stone inscription had actually turned into dust. How was this possible? It was too unbelievable. It must be known that from the aura emanating from the stone inscription, Xiaoqing knew that it had existed for countless years and hadn't been destroyed by the passage of time. All right, let's open the treasury first. Gu Fei waved his right hand. A sword light immediately rushed out of his hand and slashed at the door of the treasury. Boom! With a loud bang, The door of the treasury was immediately split in half by the swordlight that Gu Fei had slashed out. A cloud of dust filled the air. After the dust settled, an entrance appeared in front of the two. A wave of spiritual energy spread out from the entrance. Colorful spiritual lights rushed out, illuminating the entire sky. At this time, it was the darkest time of the night, the time before the sun rose. Not bad. Gu Fei nodded and walked in. Then, he was immediately stunned by what he saw. The treasury was filled with spiritual lights, and divine materials and medicines were simply placed on the wooden shelves. A 10,000-year-old Chinese knotweed in human form. Chaos spirit stones from outer space. And purple blood divine jade. Gu Fei's eyes lit up. These things weren't common goods that could be found anywhere. These were all rare divine medicines and divine materials. Taking any divine material out of the treasury would probably cause a commotion. I've struck gold. After entering, Xiaoqing was also stunned by what he saw. The treasury was huge and was engraved with immortal Tao runes. There were rows of shelves filled with divine materials and divine medicines. These items should have been collected by the primordial heavenly Dharch. Now that the treasury of the primordial heavenly Dharch had been destroyed, the primordial heavenly Dharch would probably vomit blood in anger when he returned. But at this time, the true body of the ancient Yuan heavenly emperor was nowhere to be seen. It seemed that he wouldn't show up even if Gu Fei and the others razed his lair to the ground. I'll give this treasury to you. Gu Fei patted Xiaoqing's shoulder and said, Big brother, are you serious? Xiaoqing was extremely excited. Even he couldn't estimate the value of such a treasury. However, he knew that some divine materials were priceless. Of course, I don't need these things, Gu Fei said. He had obtained countless divine materials and divine medicines. Although the items in this treasury were rare and some had already gone extinct in the mortal realm, they were still extremely rare. However, Gu Fei felt that the value of the 9 heaven-punishing swords was comparable to this treasury. One should know that it was the sovereign sword Dao. Thank you, big brother, Xiaoqing hurriedly said. There's no need to thank me between you and me. Gu Fei patted Xiaoqing's shoulder and walked out of the treasury. Arriving at the plaza of the celestial city, he raised his head and smiled. Those fellows weren't slow at all. They took over the celestial palace so quickly. Gu Fei muttered to himself. He took a step forward and instantly arrived at the celestial palace in the sky. Who's there? Someone shouted as soon as Gu Fei appeared. Then, a silhouette flickered and a group of black fiend soldiers surrounded him. Stand down. The Xianming Saintess walked out at this time and berated the black fiend soldiers. The black fiend soldiers immediately dispersed and retreated to the side. Brother Gu, I hope you won't take offense. Chapter 2690. Although the Sky Emperor Palace had been conquered by the black demon soldiers led by the Xianming Holy Maiden, some of the important places in the Sky Emperor Palace were protected by holy Venerable ray formations. The Xianming Holy Maiden and the others would not be able to break through them in a short time. To some extent, the celestial palace in the sky was even more important than the celestial city on the ground. That was the true residence of the celestial emperor. The heavenly emperor palace was built on the peak of a divine mountain that floated high in the sky. With this divine mountain as the leader, there were 8 smaller divine mountains floating in the void around it. The 9 sacred mountains formed a large array formation that protected the Sky Emperor Palace. Of course, the large array formation had already been destroyed by the mysterious underworld Saintess and the others. When Gu Fei arrived at the heavenly Emperor Palace, the mysterious underworld Saintess quickly came out to welcome him. You guys sure are fast. Gu Fei looked around and said. In the huge heavenly Emperor Palace, scarlet blood stains could be seen everywhere. Broken weapons were scattered all over the ground. What used to be a holy land had now become a sure hell. No one had expected that the heavenly Emperor Palace would be breached. Everyone watching the battle was shocked to the extreme. However, what puzzled them was that the true body of the primordial heavenly Dharch had yet to appear. Even Gu Fei had to admire the primordial celestial arch for being able to keep his composure even after his lair had been destroyed. If it wasn't for you, Brother Gu, there wouldn't be a day where our Xianming sect could rise again, the Xianming saintess said seriously. If it hadn't been for Gu Fei, they wouldn't have had the chance to make a comeback even if they waited for thousands of years. One had to know that the power of the primordial Heavenly Emperor was too enormous. Apart from the primordial Heavenly Emperor, there were actually two other Heavenly Venerables guarding Celestial City and the Heavenly Emperor Palace. If it weren't for Gu Fei and Yuan Hong fighting against the two Saint Venerables, any one of them could have wiped out the remaining forces of the Xianming sect. I'm not helping you. I also have some enmity with that old man Yuan Gu. The Heavenly Emperor Palace was breached by you guys, but the treasury of the Heavenly Emperor Palace was not breached by you guys. How about this? I'll break the treasury and we'll split the treasures in half, Gu Fei said. I'll leave everything up to Brother Gu, the mysterious underworld saintess said without hesitation. Gu Fei's power had already exceeded her expectations. Even if she hadn't led the mysterious underworld sect's black demon soldiers to attack the Sky Emperor Palace, given Gu Fei's cultivation base and combat strength, he would definitely have been able to attack the Sky Emperor Palace. Yes. Gu Fei nodded and walked towards the depths of the Heavenly Emperor Palace. There was an aura of decay and death coming from there. Elder Yan Kuan was using the yellow spring water to corrode the grand formation outside the Heavenly Emperor Palace's treasury, trying to break it open. Elder Yan, you may leave for now. When Gu Fei and the Xianming Saintess arrived, the Xianming Saintess immediately ordered Elder Yan Kuan. Yes. Elder Yan Kuan put away the underworld gourd, and the terrifying aura of decay and death immediately disappeared. He held the underworld gourd and retreated to the side. The formation outside the treasury was at the Holy Venerate level, so it should have been created by the ancient Celestial Emperor. The ancient Celestial Emperor was very suspicious, so he naturally had to set up such an important place himself. Without any hesitation, Gu Fei stepped forward and stretched out his right hand, activating the secret word of Wu. The power of the secret word of Wu immediately surged out from his hand and shrouded the great formation in front of him. Buzz! The void trembled and a layer of Immortal Path divine light appeared in the void in front of him. Immortal Path runes circulated and intertwined on the layer of Immortal Path divine light. An incomparably powerful Immortal Path aura surged forward, but it was blocked by Gu Fei. In the next moment, a scene that shocked the mysterious underworld saintess and the others appeared. The immortal light that Elder Yan Kuan had tried so hard to break quickly dimmed and disappeared into the void, as if it had never been there. This, Yan Kuan and Black Tiger Taoist glanced at each other, and saw a trace of fear in each other's eyes. Gu Fei was really too heaven-defying. They were in awe of Gu Fei, so they couldn't help but be cautious in front of Gu Fei. The Great Elder was really unlucky to have offended such an existence. Being crippled was the result of him being blind. Black Tiger Taoist and Yan Kuan couldn't help but break out in a cold sweat when they thought about the Great Elder's fate. However, after the layer of immortal light was destroyed by Gu Fei, another layer of immortal light emerged. This layer of immortal light was different from the previous one. When this layer of immortal light emerged, it emitted a sonorous sound. The Immortal Path runes on the immortal light rapidly evolved and turned into a dazzling sword light that pierced towards Gu Fei and the others. It was as if thousands of heavenly swords had been unsheathed at the same time. It was extremely sharp. Seeing this scene, the Xianming Saintess and the others were startled. This was a Holy Venerable level sword light. Each one of them could cut them into pieces. The Xianming Saintess and the others subconsciously retreated when they saw the eruption of the sword light. However, at this time, Gu Fei had already stretched out his right hand and pressed forward. Then, a shocking scene appeared. Gu Fei's right hand was like a bottomless black hole, sucking in all of the sword lights, causing them to disappear into his hand. The power of the secret word of nothing erupted in Gu Fei's hand and dissolved everything. Even the sword Dao formation that the primordial Emperor Xian had imprinted in the void was also destroyed. This was the power of the secret word of nothing. No matter how heaven-defying your runes were, they would still be turned into nothingness. Not even ashes would be left behind. They would completely disappear from this world. Another layer of formation was broken. However, after the sword formation was broken, another layer of formation was activated. This formation was even more powerful than the sword formation and was also an offensive formation. Buzz! The immortal runes revolved and a pitch-black hole appeared in the void in front of everyone. A heaven-devouring power surged out of the black hole and actually pulled the Xianming Saintess and the others behind Gu Fei into the black hole. Humph! Gu Fei took a step forward and directly punched. The powerful force shook the black hole and the heaven-devouring power that surged out of the black hole immediately weakened. The Xianming Saintess and the others hurriedly retreated. Black Tiger Taoist and Yan Kuan were already pale with fear. The Xianming Saintess' face was covered, but her eyes were also filled with fear. They had underestimated the Heavenly Emperor Palace. This was the residence of a holy venerable level celestial emperor. Some places were protected by formations and couldn't go anywhere. Elder Yan Kuan was even more frightened. Fortunately, the first layer of formation was not an offensive formation. Otherwise, he would have died long ago. Gu Fei made a decisive move and directly used absolute power to disperse the black hole in front of him. Then, he continued to break the formation. He only took a dozen divine materials and sacred artifacts before leaving the rest for the Xianming Saintess and the others. This surprised and delighted the Xianming Saintess and the others. They had never imagined that Gu Fei would be so generous as to give them the rest of the divine materials and sacred artifacts. With these divine materials and sacred artifacts, the strength of the mysterious underworld sect would definitely increase greatly. Even if the remnants of the primordial heavenly Dharch wanted to counterattack, the mysterious underworld sect would at least be able to protect themselves. They might even be able to kill all the invading enemies. The mysterious underworld sect would then have the confidence to unify the Eastern Territory. Gu Fei's ambitions weren't in the Eastern Territory, but the mysterious underworld sect was still facing a great threat. Although they had conquered the Heavenly Emperor Palace, the mysterious underworld sect would face a tragic end once the primordial heavenly Dharch returned. However, this wasn't something that Gu Fei could handle. He didn't want either. He wasn't the guardian of the mysterious underworld sect, so he had no obligation to do anything for the mysterious underworld sect. They're still fighting. Gu Fei left the Heavenly Emperor Palace and suddenly looked into the distance. A moment later, he disappeared into the void. Boom! Bam! In the depths of a mountain range 10,000 miles away from the Heavenly Emperor Palace, two silhouettes were moving at high speed. They were engaged in an intense battle. Terrifying heavenly venerate aura spread in all directions. The golden spirituality ape Yuan Hong was fighting against the ancient immortal. The ancient immortal was definitely a terrifying and powerful ancient war immortal. His cultivation base and combat strength weren't something an ordinary immortal venerable could compare to. However, the golden spirit ape race was also a famous battle race that had been established since ancient times. Yuan Hong and this Gu Zhanxian could be said to be at loggerheads. Roar! Yuan Hong roared in rage. The golden cudgel in his hands swept out, and the ferocious force of the cudgel caused Gu Zhanxian to be flung through the air. Boom! A mountain peak was smashed apart. The mountain range was in chaos. Smoke and dust billowed. Kill! A loud shout was heard from the smoke. A silhouette rushed out and instantly appeared in front of Yuan Hong. A battle spear pierced through the void, aiming at Yuan Hong's glabella. Clang! Yuan Hong swept the golden rod in his hand, sweeping the battle spear to the side. Swoosh! At this moment, 9 rays of immortal light rushed out from Gu Zhanxian's body, turning into supreme sword shadows that slashed towards Yuan Hong. Each sword shadow emitted terrifying sword chi. In a close combat situation, the 9 sword shadows that rushed out from Gu Zhanxian's body were extremely fast. All of them slashed onto Yuan Hong's body. However, something unexpected happened. The 9 sword shadows that were comparable to sacred swords were all shattered when they slashed onto Yuan Hong's body. A battle robe that was completely woven from runes appeared on Yuan Hong's body. The 9 sword shadows could not break through this battle robe and were shattered in the air by the vast power of the great path that emanated from the battle robe. The sacred robe of the golden spirituality ape race. Gu Zhanxian was shocked. At this moment, Yuan Hong's fist had already landed on Gu Zhanxian's shoulder, sending him flying backwards. The sound of bones breaking rang out from his shoulder. However, at Gu Zhanxian's level of cultivation, regenerating flesh and bones was not a difficult task. When Gu Zhanxian steadied himself, the wound on his shoulder was already completely healed. It was as if he was never injured in the first place. He was still as strong as ever, and his battle intent was still as strong as ever. When Gu Fei approached, although Yuan Hong had already gained the upper hand, it was difficult for him to suppress this rare opponent. "Do you need help?" Gu Fei asked Yuan Yin. "No need, I can take him down." Yuan Hong was very direct and domineering. He directly rushed towards Gu Zhanxian, who was sent flying away. Gu Zhanxian had also noticed Gu Fei's presence. "Who are you?" Gu Zhanxian transmitted his voice to Gu Fei. "Gu Fei." Gu Fei didn't hide anything. There was no need for him to hide anything. With his current cultivation level and strength, he no longer needed to fear anyone in the heaven realm. Plus, he had the saint weapon in his hands. "Very well, I will remember it." Gu Zhanxian didn't hesitate. He tore open the void and rushed into the chaotic void, trying to escape. "Where do you think you're going?" Chapter 2692. Gu Zhanxian saw that the situation was bad and immediately tore through the void to escape into the chaos. Yuan Hong naturally wouldn't allow Gu Zhanxian to escape so easily. After that, he also broke through the void and chased after Gu Zhanxian into the chaos. Seeing this, Gu Fei was a little surprised. Yuan Hong's silhouette disappeared into the chaos. In the end, even his aura couldn't be sensed anymore. Gu Fei didn't chase into the chaos. He had no choice but to turn around and leave. When Gu Fei returned to the Heavenly Emperor Palace, he found that Old Tortoise was here. There were at least a dozen powerful demonic auras in the vicinity. Those were the demonic auras emitted by the experts of the demonic race. "Haha, brother, you're really something." Old Tortoise laughed heartily as he came out from the Heavenly Emperor Palace. "You came so fast." Gu Fei was a little surprised to see Old Tortoise. "Knowing that you're here, how would I dare not come?" Old Tortoise laughed heartily and hugged Gu Fei tightly. "Boss!" At this time, a burly man in battle armor walked out from behind Old Tortoise. This man was very excited to see Gu Fei. "You are Fire Kirin Balon." Gu Fei couldn't help being startled when he saw this man. But he quickly recognized him, as well as his true identity. This man was the Fire Kirin Balon that Gu Fei subdued back then. "Ancestor." At this moment, a fair and chubby little fatty walked out of the Heaven Emperor Palace. As soon as the little fatty saw Gu Fei, he immediately ran up to him and hugged Gu Fei's thigh. With tears and snot streaming down his face, he told Gu Fei about his experiences in the Heaven realm all these years. "Gu Xiaofeng." Gu Fei grabbed the little fatty's collar and lifted him up. This little guy looked exactly like Gu Zhong when he was young. "Ancestor, I don't want to stay in the heavenly realm anymore. I want to go home," Gu Xiaofeng said while crying. Ever since he came to the heaven realm, he had been living in fear every day because Old Tortoise would train him from time to time. "You seem to be doing well in the heaven world. You're already a supreme expert. If you were in the lower world, I'm afraid you wouldn't even be an immortal emperor." Gu Fei put the little fatty aside. "Grandmaster, I really don't want to stay in the heaven realm. I miss my father and mother," little fatty begged. Gu Fei looked at Old Tortoise and did not know what to do. "You little brat, other people want to enter the heaven realm no matter how hard they try. But you actually want to go down to the lower realms. You are truly infuriating me to death," Old Tortoise said in disappointment. "Grandmaster, I haven't seen my parents for hundreds of years." The little fatty was afraid of this Grand Master. He wanted nothing more than to run away from him, because recently, this Grand Master seemed to have his eyes on him again. If this Grand Master wanted to train him again, he would be played to a pulp by this Grand Master. The little fatty was really afraid of being trained by his Grand Master. "Old Tortoise, look!" Gu Fei also knew that he had brought Gu Xiaofeng to the heaven realm and separated him from his parents for hundreds of years. Gu Xiaofeng was really homesick, and Gu Fei also felt guilty. After all, he was the one who brought Gu Xiaofeng to the heaven realm. "Sai, forget it, I'll return this little brat to you." Old Tortoise waved his hand impatiently and said, "Aha, I am free now." At this time, the little fatty Gu Xiaofeng stopped crying and roared angrily. He felt that the snot and tears were just an act. "Little brat!" Old Tortoise raised his leg and kicked the little fatty away like a ball. The little fatty disappeared into the horizon. "Grand Master, help!" The little fatty's heart-wrenching cry came from afar. "Serves you right." Old Tortoise ignored the little fatty and brought Gu Fei into the heavenly emperor palace as if this was his old nest. This made the Xianming Saintess and the others a little unhappy. However, the Xianming Saintess and the others also knew that the old tortoise that Gu Fei mentioned was the current demon lord of the Heaven Realm Demon Clan. This demon lord had always been domineering and protective. When Old Tortoise arrived, the Xianming Saintess and the others were even more shocked and uneasy. After entering the Heavenly Emperor Palace, Old Tortoise sat on the throne in the middle of the hall. Even Gu Fei could only sit below him. Although the Xianming Saintess and the others were unhappy, they did not dare to show it. After all, Old Tortoise's fist was much stronger than theirs. In the cultivation world, the strong preyed on the weak. Whoever had the hardest fist was the boss. Now, Old Tortoise's fist was the hardest, so he could dominate everything. Even if Old Tortoise wanted the people of the Xianming sect to get lost, they would not dare to say no. After a while, the little fatty stuck his head out of the door and looked around. "Brother, you are too ruthless. Why did you come to Yuan Gu's lair to undergo your tribulation?" Old Tortoise ignored the little fatty and continued talking to Gu Fei. "It's nothing. I just had a sudden impulse." Gu Fei waved his hand as if nothing had happened. Although he had said it casually, everyone present knew that Gu Fei's actions were absolutely crazy. If he had been careless, he would have been consigned to eternal damnation. No one had dared to do this, but Gu Fei had done it and succeeded. "You!" Old Tortoise laughed. The stronger Gu Fei was, the better it was for the demon clan. After all, he and Gu Fei were brothers who had experienced life and death together. "Master, big brother!" At that moment, Xiaoqing suddenly walked in from outside. "Come and sit!" Gu Fei called out to Xiaoqing. "Yes, big brother." Xiaoqing walked over to Gu Fei and sat down next to Gu Fei. "Gu Fei, let's talk about how to divide Yuan Gu's territory. How about it?" Old Tortoise looked at Gu Fei and said, "Haha, you've finally revealed your fox's tail. No wonder you came here so quickly. It seems like you're here to occupy my territory." Gu Fei pointed at Old Tortoise and laughed. "How about it?" Old Tortoise asked. "Yuan Gu's territory is not that easy to divide," Gu Fei said seriously. Yuan Gu's real body was still there. Who knew when he would suddenly return? This was a great threat. "I know what you mean. I really don't care about Yuan Gu." Old Tortoise was full of confidence. He had the ultimate demon weapon, Great Sovereign Seal, so he could do whatever he wanted in the Heaven Realm. There were not many people in the Heaven Realm who could be his opponent. "In that case, do as you see fit," Gu Fei said. However, the mysterious dark sect broke through the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Therefore, you have to leave a piece of land for the mysterious dark sect to rebuild. What do you think?" Gu Fei continued. At that moment, the mysterious dark saintess looked at Gu Fei gratefully. The ancient Heavenly Emperor's territory was huge. Given the mysterious dark sect's strength, it was impossible for them to completely take over such a huge territory. Moreover, the other powerful forces in the Heaven Realm had been eyeing the Eastern Territory for a long time. The mysterious dark sect could not compete with them. All right, I agree. Old Tortoise thought about it and agreed. The matter was settled very quickly. The mysterious dark sect would rebuild the mysterious dark sect in the area that Old Tortoise had given them, while the Heavenly Emperor Palace was given to Old Tortoise. This matter was beyond everyone's expectations. The demon race in the Heaven Realm had actually taken over the ancient Heavenly Emperor's territory. This shocked the other forces to the extreme. No one dared to jump out and compete with Old Tortoise for the ancient Heavenly Emperor's territory. This allowed the demon race in the Heaven Realm to pick up a huge bargain. After all, the other super forces in the Heaven Realm had been eyeing the Eastern Territory covetously for a long time. No one had thought that this would be the result. Little fatty, get your ass in here. After the discussion, Old Tortoise waved at Gu Xiaofeng, who had been pacing back and forth outside the gate. At this moment, the little fatty ran in from the outside. You little brat, you will follow your martial ancestor from now on. Don't think that following your martial ancestor is a good thing. I believe that your martial ancestor is better than me. Ha ha, Old Tortoise said to the little fatty. It can't be. The little fatty immediately became dejected. He had just escaped from the wolf's lair, only to fall into the tiger's lair. Oh my God! Who can save me? All right, your martial ancestor is just trying to scare you. Gu Fei glared at Old Tortoise and said, Brother, what do you plan to do next? Old Tortoise ignored the little fatty and asked Gu Fei. Well, I'm going to pick up 2 people. Gu Fei thought for a moment and said, Who? Old Tortoise asked curiously. Your sister-in-law and niece. Gu Fei did not hide it. What? You have a daughter? When Old Tortoise heard this, he stood up from his seat abruptly and looked at Gu Fei in shock. When did this guy get married? He even has a daughter. The Xianming Holy Maiden was a little disappointed. Although I'm a warrior, I'm also a normal man. Isn't it normal for me to get married and have children? Is there a need to be so surprised? Gu Fei said disapprovingly. Let's go. I'll go with you to pick them up. Old Tortoise was very curious. What kind of extraordinary woman could catch the eye of Gu Fei and even give birth to a daughter for Gu Fei? In the end, Old Tortoise handed over the task of taking over the territory of the primordial celestial emperor to Shaoqing. Then, he took the fire Qilin Balan and Gu Fei to a teleportation array in the Heavenly Emperor Palace and left the Heavenly Emperor Palace. Soon, Gu Fei and the others appeared on a teleportation array platform in a big city in the Nanling Mountains. The fact that they had crossed over made all the experts in the city feel very uneasy. The auras they emitted were just too powerful. I didn't know that the seniors had come to Nantian City. Please forgive me for not going out to meet you. Chapter 2693. The city lord of Nantian City was a plump man with a smiling face. He wasn't a weakling. He was a quasi-saint, but in the eyes of Gu Fei and the others, this fatty was nothing. One should know that even Gu Fei's grand disciple, Gu Xiaofeng, was already an immortal emperor. Gu Xiaofeng's father, Gu Zhong, was even a martial saint. Although a sage-to-be was powerful, they were like ants in front of a sage. However, what surprised Gu Fei and the others was that the fat city lord was followed by an old servant. This old servant was actually a sage. A saint was actually willing to be the servant of a quasi-saint. This caused Gu Fei and the others to feel very strange. One must know that saints were all prideful existences that looked down on all living beings. They were existences that stood above all living beings. The fatty was very enthusiastic towards Gu Fei and the others. One should know that Gu Fei and the others were all heavenly sovereigns. Even the old servant behind him couldn't help but feel nervous when he saw Gu Fei and the others. Nantian City had never had so many saints come to Nantian City at once. If they were to neglect these people and make them unhappy, it would definitely be a disaster for Nantian City. The fatty welcomed Gu Fei and the others into the city lord mansion of Nantian City. After the guests and the hosts were seated, the fatty asked about the purpose of Gu Fei and the others coming to Nantian City. The fatty was very straightforward. We are going to Luoxia City. the Fire Qilin Balan said. Luoxia City? The fatty couldn't help but be startled. Then, he said, Luoxia City is more than 10,000 li away from here, but I heard that the people of Fire Emperor have already breached Luoxia City. I don't know if it's true. What? Gu Fei and the others couldn't help but be startled. The people of Fire Emperor had breached Luoxia City? How was this possible? Luoxia City was located in a remote mountain. Why would the people of Fire Emperor set their eyes on such a city? Moreover, Yenna and her daughter were still in Luoxia City. When Gu Fei thought of this matter, he couldn't sit still. He directly asked the Fat City Lord to take them to the transmission formation platform. They had to go to Luoxia City immediately. When the Fat City Lord saw that Gu Fei and the others were in a hurry to go to Luoxia City, he secretly rejoiced in his heart. He could not wait to send away this group of gods of plagues, but he did not dare to show any displeasure in front of this group of gods of plagues. Swoosh! When a mass of divine light wrapped around Gu Fei and the others and directly escaped into the void, the Fat City Lord heaved a sigh of relief. At this time, Luoxia City was surrounded by a group of soldiers under the command of the Fire Emperor. Moreover, this group of soldiers had launched more than 10 attacks, but they were all repelled by the defenders of Luoxia City. The old city lord of Luoxia City was only an immortal emperor, but the immortal general who attacked Luoxia City was a supreme expert. Logically speaking, Luoxia City would not be able to withstand the attack of a supreme expert. However, Luoxia City was currently guarded by 2 great gods. Yenner was a saint emperor, and Gu Ling was a great perfection quasi-saint who was only 1 step away from becoming a saint. With a saint emperor guarding the city, how could a mere supreme expert break through Luoxia City? The supreme expert in the immortal Tao in the Fire Emperor's army had already sensed that something was wrong. He had already sent a message back, hoping that the Fire Emperor would send experts to help. In this way, they would definitely be able to break through Luoxia City. However, the supreme expert was very puzzled. He didn't know why the Fire Emperor would send him to attack Luoxia City. Luoxia City was located in a remote mountain. It was just a small city. What should we do, Yenna? Can you ask your master to help us repel the invaders? In the city lord mansion of Luoxia City, the old city lord was restless. He asked the girl next to him. The girl was his precious granddaughter, Yenner. Yenner had soaked in the divine spring of life for more than 10 days. All the old injuries on her body had completely healed. Moreover, Gu Ling had also taken advantage of this opportunity to help Yenner reconstruct her body, turning her into a 17 or 18-year-old girl. She was a beautiful girl. Her whole body was filled with spirituality, like an immortal spirit that had descended from the 9 heavens. She didn't look like a mortal at all. Grandpa, Master won't care about these things, Yenner said helplessly. Gu Ling's cultivation had reached a bottleneck. She was preparing to transcend her tribulation. She didn't want to care about anything in the outside world. She wasn't in Luoxia City right now. Even Yenner didn't know where her master was right now. Then what should we do? Are we just going to watch Luoxia City be breached by those people from the outside? The old city lord was very anxious. The other party had come prepared. The void around Luoxia City had been sealed. Even the information transmission talismans couldn't fly out. It was even more impossible for the cultivators in the city to escape. The great expert outside the city had set up a great formation outside Luoxia City to seal the void. Even the ordinary teleportation formation in Luoxia City couldn't send people out. Only the ancient teleportation formation in the City Lord Mansion could ignore the seal of the outside world and send people out. However, the old City Lord wouldn't use that ancient formation unless it was absolutely necessary. Yenner, why don't you go and beg that master of yours? The old City Lord said to his granddaughter in a pleading tone. He had been forced into a corner. Once the Luoxia City was breached, all the cultivators in the city, even the ordinary people, would probably be killed. This was the usual practice of the Fire Emperor's soldiers. The stronger the resistance of a city, once it was breached, the more the Fire Emperor's soldiers would slaughter the entire city. The Fire Emperor's soldiers outside had been attacking for a long time, but they still couldn't breach the city. The old city lord could already imagine the tragedy of Luoxia City when it was breached. "Grandpa, my master usually comes and goes without a trace. She's the only one who comes to find me. Where do you want me to find her?" Yenna was very embarrassed. Her master was very unreliable. She would disappear every 2 or 3 days. Perhaps only her Grand Master could find her. "Do you really have no way to find your master?" The old city lord looked at Yenner and said. "This?" Yenner pondered. She didn't want to disturb her Grand Master, who was the mother of her master's sister. However, it seemed that she had no choice but to ask her Grand Master for help. She also didn't want to see Luoxia City be breached. Once Luoxia City was breached by the Fire Emperor's soldiers, the people in the city would be plunged into misery and suffering. This was something she didn't want to see. "Do you have a way?" The old city lord knew that there was hope when he saw his granddaughter's expression. He couldn't help but be overjoyed. One should know that there was a sage behind his precious granddaughter's master. As long as he could ask these 2 great gods to help, even if the Fire Emperor sent a sage to attack Luoxia City, they would definitely not be able to break through. "I'll go look for Grand Master." Yenna looked at her grandfather and said very seriously. Grand Master didn't like to move around. She was cultivating in a quiet room in Luoxia City. "All right, go quickly." The old city lord was surprised and happy when he heard this. If his granddaughter could ask for help from a sage or above existence, it couldn't be better. Luoxia City would be saved. "I'm just going to give it a try. If she doesn't agree to help, there's nothing I can do," Yenner said to her grandfather. I know. Go quickly," the old city lord urged. As long as Yenner asked for help, it would be impossible for her to not help. At this time, he let out a sigh of relief. Yenner nodded to her grandfather, and then walked to the back of the city lord's mansion. However, at this time, a figure walked out from the back of the city lord's mansion. "Greetings, Grand Master!" Yenner saw the person and quickly bowed. "No need to be so polite." The person waved his hand and Yenner stopped bowing. "Yes, Grand Master." Yenner respectfully straightened her body. "Greetings, Senior. I hope that Senior can save all the creatures in Luoxia City." The old city lord saw that person and quickly bowed. The person who walked out from the back of the city lord's mansion was a white-robed fairy. This white-robed fairy was Yenner. "I'm not in a hurry." After saying this, Yenner directly walked out of the city lord's mansion and came to the ancient formation platform. Just as the Fire Emperor's almighty immortal general was waiting for support, an ancient formation platform in the city lord's mansion of Luoxia City suddenly started to operate. Runes rushed out of the formation platform and a void portal appeared on the formation platform. "He's back so soon?" Yenner stood in front of the ancient formation platform and murmured to herself. At this time, a person walked out of the void portal on the ancient formation platform. This person was sneakily looking around outside the void portal. It was a fair-skinned, chubby young man. Just as the chubby young man was thinking about whether or not to walk out of the void portal, someone kicked his butt and sent him flying out of the void portal. That little fatty cried out loudly. Whoosh! Unexpectedly, he flew off to who knows where. Yenner and the old city lord were dumbfounded when they saw this scene. At this time, a tall, middle-aged man with a majestic appearance walked out of the void portal on the ancient formation platform. "You are..." Yenner couldn't help but be shocked when she saw this person. This person was the demon lord of the Heaven Realm Demon Clan, Gu Fei's good brother, the Grand Emperor's son, Old Turtle. Old Turtle's name was Ba Xia. He was the leader of the Grand Emperor's 9 sons. In the distant past, the Grand Emperor's 9 sons had made a huge name for themselves and their names shook the ancient desolation. Now, the Grand Emperor's son had completely recovered his former peak cultivation and had mastered the Grand Emperor's seal, the Grand Emperor's demon weapon. Even Yenner didn't expect such a big shot to appear here. After Old Turtle walked out of the void portal, the next person to walk out was Gu Fei. "Sister-in-law, where's my niece?" Old Turtle asked Gu Ling as soon as he saw Yenner. "I don't know where that crazy girl went." Chapter 2694. Gu Ling had always been strange and elusive. Even Yen'er didn't know where she was, but Yen'er was able to find her daughter. Yen'er usually used the sound-transmitting jade talisman to contact her daughter. She immediately took out the talisman and contacted Gu Ling very quickly. The talisman in Yen'er's hand vibrated. At this time, under the guidance of the old city lord, everyone arrived at the main hall of the prefecture. The old city lord didn't dare to sit on the main seat. One should know that there was a demon lord of demon race in heaven world among this group of people. How could he dare to act presumptuously in front of the demon lord of demon race? The old city lord invited the demon lord, Old Turtle, to sit on the main seat. Gu Fei and the others sat on both sides, while the old city lord and his precious granddaughter sat on the last seat. Although he was the city lord of Luoxia City, he was only an immortal emperor. At this time, the little fatty who was kicked away had returned. Only now did the old city lord discover that this little fatty was also an immortal emperor, and a major success stage immortal emperor expert. This made him feel ashamed. This group of people was truly heaven-defying. Even a child was an immortal emperor, let alone the others. The arrival of such a group of people put the old city lord at ease. One should know that even the demon lord of demon race was here. This time, even Fire Emperor wouldn't be able to attack Luoxia City. However, what made the old city lord apprehensive was why such a big shot would come to such a small place. "I say, Gu Fei, your little princess doesn't seem to be like you." The old turtle sat on the main seat and said to Gu Fei with a smile. He had already learned from Yen'er that Gu Fei's precious daughter was definitely a lively and active person. "Old Turtle, what do you mean? Who else does my daughter look like if not me?" Gu Fei glared at the old turtle and said, "Ever since I got to know you, you have always been a man of few words, haven't you?" "Ha!" The old turtle laughed. "All right, I won't talk to you about this. I don't want to see those annoying flies outside the city. Send someone to deal with them." Gu Fei suddenly changed the topic. He had already sensed that someone had set up a large array to seal the entire Luoxia city, which made him very unhappy. Old Tortoise glanced at Balon, who was standing beside him. Naturally, Old Tortoise understood what Old Tortoise meant. However, he did not intend to attack. Instead, he waved at the two demon race powerhouses standing behind him. The two demon clan experts immediately turned around and left. Among the people outside, the one with the highest cultivation level was only an almighty. If a sage were to make a move, that would be thinking too highly of those people. Soon, a strong power fluctuation came from outside Luoxia City, and there was a monstrous demon chi. Not long after, the two monster race experts returned. One of the monster race experts held a head in his hand. It was the head of a strange beast, and there was a crimson flame lingering on it. Fire Ape. When the old city lord saw the head in the monster race expert's hand, he could not help but be taken aback. He did not expect the two monster race experts to kill the leader of the Fire Emperor's soldiers outside the city so easily. The Fire Ape was a kind of creature born from the Earth's fire vein. Of course, the Southern Mountains Fire Emperor was not from the Fire Ape race. This Fire Ape was the leader of the Fire Emperor's soldiers outside Luoxia City, the almighty expert. "All right, it's done. Why isn't my niece back yet?" The old turtle did not take this matter seriously at all. Even if the Fire Emperor came in person, he would not be afraid. If the Fire Emperor was sensible, he would naturally not come to humiliate himself. Boom! As soon as the old turtle's voice fell, a muffled sound suddenly came from outside the main hall. Then, two large dragons directly rushed in from outside. One was a fire dragon, and the other was a wind dragon. Above the main hall, the wind chi and the fire chi were mighty, which surprised everyone. The old city lord, in particular, was so scared that he almost jumped out of his seat. Someone actually dared to directly attack the main hall. This was really unimaginable. Could it be that the experts under the Fire Emperor had arrived so quickly? "Niece, are you trying to show off your strength as soon as we meet?" At this time, Old Ghost, who was sitting on the throne, suddenly burst into laughter. At this moment, The two large dragons formed by the fire and water chi circled around the main hall and directly pounced on the old turtle sitting on the throne. What nonsense! When Yen who was sitting next to Gu Fei, saw this scene, she smiled bitterly and shook her head. With so many saints in the main hall, no one could sneak into the city lord's mansion silently and arrive outside the main hall without being discovered. Even if the Fire Emperor came in person, it would not be possible to hide from Gu Fei and the old turtle. At this moment, the old turtle directly stretched out his right hand and grabbed forward. The two large dragons immediately flew towards his big hand and quickly shrunk. Haha, Uncle Old Turtle is really powerful. Just as the old turtle kept the two large dragons formed by the wind and fire chi, a bell-like laughter rang. A purple-robed girl was peeking her head out of the main hall. Hee hee. The old turtle smiled strangely and then stretched out his sharp claws towards the purple-robed girl. Damn it! As soon as the purple-robed girl saw the old turtle, she immediately turned around and wanted to escape. However, as soon as she turned around, a powerful suction force immediately enveloped her. The purple-robed girl screamed and flew into the main hall. She struggled violently, but how could she break free? Gu Ling was incomparably shocked. She circulated her mystic art with all her might. The powerful pressure of a quasi-sage erupted from her body, shocking everyone in the main hall. One should know that although there were many saints in the main hall, there were also many cultivators below the sage realm. The old city lord only felt his soul trembling. He was just an immortal emperor, not even an almighty. How could he withstand the pressure of a quasi-sage? On the contrary, the precious granddaughter of the old city lord Yen looked as if nothing had happened. Gu Ling flew to the front of the old turtle and landed on the ground, but she didn't seem to panic. Instead, she was very calm. Haha, Uncle Old Turtle, you are too powerful, Gu Ling said with a smile. A trace of slyness flashed in her eyes. Hee hee, you are really very different from your father. The old turtle glanced at Gu Fei and said with a smile. Old Turtle, you. Gu Fei shook his head. Uncle Old Turtle, since this is the first time we have met, this gourd is for you, Gu Ling said and handed the gourd in her hand to the old turtle. This is Taoist Feng Hua's wind and fire gourd. Chapter 2695. The fact that Taoist Feng Hua's firestorm gourd was in Gu Ling's hands shocked the old city lord to the extreme. He could not believe it. After all, Taoist Feng Hua was definitely not a kind person. Although Taoist Feng Hua was just a rogue cultivator, he was extremely powerful. His cultivation was considered an expert among the sages, and he was the target of many forces. The firestorm gourd was Taoist Feng Hua's famous magic treasure. He regarded it as his life and would never lend it to others. Although he did not know how Gu Ling obtained the firestorm gourd, the fact that she could get her hands on it was enough to explain the situation. Haha, it's really a good thing. Old Tortoise did not know whether to laugh or cry when he saw Gu Ling hand the gourd to him. Although the gourd was a sage-level magic treasure, he really did not fancy it. He could have as many of such magic treasures as he wanted. This gourd is definitely a good thing. Uncle Tortoise really has a good eye. Gu Ling directly stuffed the gourd into Old Tortoise's hand. Old Tortoise had no choice but to accept the gourd. Then, he saw Gu Ling looking at him eagerly. He was extremely shrewd and naturally knew what Gu Ling was looking forward to. Haha! Old Tortoise, your daughter is really too primordial Lingling. I like her, Old Tortoise said with a laugh. He thought for a moment, then took out a purple bell and handed it to Gu Ling. Little niece, this is for you. Old Tortoise looked at Gu Ling meaningfully. Uncle Tortoise, what is this? Gu Ling reached out and took the purple bell. She could not see anything special about it. The bell was only the size of an adult's thumb. There was a lot of bronze green on it. It was completely an ordinary bell, which puzzled Gu Ling. After all, her Uncle Tortoise was not an ordinary person. He was the demon lord of the demon clan, a big shot in the heaven realm. How could he give something so ordinary? Old Tortoise, this is your fault. Gu Fei spoke at this time. The purple bell was really ordinary. Even if it was thrown on the street, no one would take a second look. Of course, Gu Fei also felt that since Old Tortoise could give it as a gift, there must be something different about the bell. Old Gu, when did you become as blind as a bat? Old Tortoise glanced at Gu Fei with contempt, and said, Uncle Tortoise. Gu Ling held the purple bell in her hand, looking forward to it. Don't underestimate this thing. It has a terrifying origin. Old Tortoise pretended to be mysterious. At this moment, everyone in the hall pricked up their ears. This bell is from the Palace of Moon Deities, Old Tortoise said. Palace of Moon Deities? The other people in the hall did not have much of a reaction, but when these words fell into Gu Fei's ears, it was different. The Moon Deities were the ancient female supremes. Could this bell be an item of the Moon Deities? However, the era of the ancient Moon Deities was too far away from the present world. Many people in the hall did not know that there was an invincible female sovereign in ancient times. Gu Ling looked at Old Tortoise in confusion. Take it! At this time, Gu Fei said to Gu Ling. Oh! Gu Ling responded and then said to Old Tortoise. Thank you, Uncle Tortoise. After saying that, Gu Ling came in front of Gu Fei and Yen Er. Dad, Mom! Like a child who had done something wrong, Gu Ling lowered her head and stood in front of Gu Fei and Yen Er. You are really mischievous. Yen Er reached out and pulled Gu Ling to her side. Greetings, Master, greetings, Grandmasters. At this time, Yen Er came forward obediently and bowed to Gu Ling, Gu Fei, and Yen Er. Is this the disciple you accepted? Gu Fei looked at the white-clothed girl who was full of spiritual energy, and could not help but secretly nod. This girl's muscles and bones were very good. She had a wood elemental constitution. He had always had a plan to accept 5 disciples with one of the 5 elemental constitutions. He wanted to train 5 elemental warriors. However, he had never had the opportunity to accept 5 elemental disciples. Gu Zhong had a metal elemental constitution, Gu Ling had a fire elemental constitution, and Yao Yu had a water elemental constitution. Adding this grand disciple in front of him, he still lacked disciples with an earth elemental constitution. Of course, accepting disciples was not a child's play. Just because one's constitution was good didn't mean that one could be accepted as a disciple. Gu Fei was a man of principle. He would not accept people with evil intentions, even if they had a heaven-defying constitution. Not bad, Dad. What do you think of this disciple of mine? Gu Ling said to Gu Fei as if she was presenting a treasure. She was very proud of her disciple's constitution. Not only did he have a wood elemental constitution, but he was also born with a Dao eye. Even Gu Fei and Old Tortoise could not see this kind of innate Dao eye. Yes. Gu Fei did not say anything. He thought for a moment, and then took out an item and handed it to Yen Er. It was a wooden bow refined from a spirit root. The body of the bow was covered with all kinds of naturally formed ancient and mysterious patterns. The bowstring was refined from the tendons of a flood dragon. This wooden bow was a magic treasure that Gu Fei had obtained in the Heavenly Emperor Palace. This magic treasure was naturally extraordinary for it to be stored in the Heavenly Emperor Palace's treasury. This wooden bow was a magic treasure of a sage ruler. Yen Er looked at her master, Gu Ling, and then at her Grand Master, Gu Fei. She did not know whether to accept it or not. This is a greeting gift from Grand Master. Take it, Gu Ling said to Yen Er. Yes, Master. Yen Er nodded and took the wooden bow from Gu Fei. Thank you, Grand Master. Yen Er said respectfully. Cultivate well. Gu Fei encouraged her. Just as the old city lord was feeling happy for his precious granddaughter, an angry roar suddenly came from outside the city. Then, an incomparably powerful aura came from outside the city. A sage-to-be? Hearing the roar, some people in the Great Hall were obviously displeased. You two, go out again. Balan ordered the 2 demon experts standing behind him. Yes. The 2 demon experts hurriedly accepted the order and left. Without any suspense, the sound of fighting came from outside the city again. A powerful force was mighty. This time, the intruder was extremely powerful and could fight with the two demon experts. The two demon race experts weren't weaklings. However, the invading creature wasn't weak either. The battle was extremely fierce, but in the end, the two demon race experts beheaded the invader and returned to report the completion of the mission. Chapter 2696. The death of a mighty figure, and a sage to be enraged a great figure under the Fire Emperor. This was because the dead sage to be was his disciple, and his favorite disciple at that. The Fire Saint Palace of the Fire Emperor floated high in the sky. Below it was a sea of fire. It was boiling magma, emitting a faint golden light that was almost transparent. This was the earth fire that came from the fire veins deep under the earth. And in this sea of fire, there was a towering tree rooted. It was a golden divine tree with golden leaves, as if it was made of pure gold. On the golden divine tree, there was a huge bird's nest. The bird's nest was surrounded by the chi of the great path. It was very unusual. If anyone saw this scene, they would be shocked. There was a huge divine tree rooted in the sea of fire, constantly absorbing the fire essence from the magma. Above the golden tree was the holy land of the Fire Clan of the South Mountains, the Fire Saint Palace. This Fire Saint Palace was the temporary residence of the ancestor of the Fire Clan. The Fire Clan of the South Mountains had always been suppressed by the South Mountains God Emperor. They had to retreat to the ancestral land of the Fire Clan and seal the ancestral land. When the Fire Emperor woke up from his slumber in the fire veins, everything changed. With the recovery of the Fire Emperor, the Fire Clan of the South Mountains came out and started a war against the South Mountains God Emperor. They took over half of the South Mountains from the hands of the South Mountains God Emperor. The current Fire Clan could not be compared to the past. The disciple of a great figure of the Fire Clan was killed. This was a slap to the face of this great figure and the Fire Clan. No matter who it was, they could not let it go. In front of the main hall of the Fire Saint Palace, a golden-haired middle-aged man looked up into the sky. A ray of fire appeared in the sky and rushed towards the Fire Saint Palace. Whoosh! A ray of fire descended from the sky and landed in front of the main hall of the Fire Saint Palace. When the fire dissipated, an old man with white hair and beard appeared in front of the golden-haired middle-aged man. "Greetings, master!" The white-haired old man knelt in front of the golden-haired middle-aged man. There was real Tao rhyme flowing around this old man's body. This old man was actually a sage. The golden-haired middle-aged man looked expressionlessly at the elder kneeling in front of him and said, "Wu Jin, go take a look and see who killed your junior brother." "Yes, master." When the old man heard this, he was shocked to the extreme. Someone actually killed his junior brother. His voice trembled. His master was too calm. This was not a good thing. The old man's name was Wu Jin, and he was the golden-haired middle-aged man's eldest disciple. He had been in closed-door training all this time, and it was only a few days ago that he was summoned back by the golden-haired middle-aged man. He had just learned from his master that his junior brother had died, and he had been killed. The old man accepted the order and turned into a ray of fire. He shot into the sky and left the Fire Saint Palace to find the other juniors. He wanted to understand what had happened first. The golden-haired middle-aged man turned and walked into the main hall of the Fiery Saint Palace. The sea of magma below the Fire Saint Palace was tens of thousands of miles wide. In a place like this, there were living creatures. The Fire Ape clan had lived here for generations. In a sea of magma 1,000 miles away from the Fiery Saint Palace, there was a golden mountain floating on the magma. The mountain was tens of thousands of miles high, and there were countless caves on it. From time to time, there would be golden figures appearing in those caves. This was the territory of the Fire Ape Emperor. At this time, a ray of fire flew from the sky and landed on the peak of the Fire Ape Mountain. There was a cave on the peak of the Fire Ape Mountain. The door of the cave was closed. The fire landed in front of the cave and the fire disappeared. A white-haired old man appeared. Rumble! Just as the old man arrived, the tightly shut door of the cave at the top of the mountain gradually opened and a gush of fire energy gushed out from the cave. Ha! What kind of wind blew eldest senior brother to my place today? A loud laugh came from the cave. Then, a figure walked out of the fire. It was a slender, handsome young man with blonde hair and white eyebrows. No one would have thought that such a handsome young man was a fire ape emperor that had attained enlightenment in the ancient times. It was a sacred ape. The arrival of the old man surprised the fire ape emperor because this big brother had been in seclusion for thousands of years. He had not cared about the world for a long time, but now, he suddenly came to the fire ape emperor. Let's talk inside. The old man glanced at the fire ape emperor and walked into the cave. The fire ape emperor quickly followed. After entering the cave and sitting down, the old man told the reason for his visit. What? Even the fire ape emperor jumped up from his seat when he heard that their little junior brother had been killed. Who had actually dared to kill their little junior brother? This was simply too outrageous. One should know that their master could make the entire southern mountains tremble with the stomp of his foot. Moreover, their little brother was their master's favorite disciple. I came to you because I don't know who it is, the old man said. Since their master had asked him to handle this matter, he naturally did not dare to be negligent. However, he was not a reckless person. As the saying goes, know yourself and know your enemy, and you will emerge victorious. No matter what, he had to find out who the other party was first. Therefore, the old man was not in a hurry to go to Luoxia City. That's easy! The fire ape emperor sent a voice transmission outside. Soon, a middle-aged man walked in from outside the cave and handed a jade slip to the fire ape emperor. The fire ape emperor waved his hand and the golden-haired middle-aged man left respectfully. When the fire ape emperor read the message in the jade slip with his divine telekinesis, his face became extremely solemn. Big brother, I'm afraid this matter is a little tricky, the fire ape emperor said and handed the jade scroll to the old man. The old man took the jade scroll. In the next moment, his eyes lit up, but his face was expressionless. Luoxia City, the demon race, the old man muttered to himself. A strong battle intent erupted from his body. He thought of many things in an instant. Could the Southern Mountains god have joined forces with the demon race? If that was the case, then they would be in big trouble. Big brother, let me go with you, the fire ape emperor muttered to himself. The fire ape clan also had a powerful fire ape who died at the hands of the demon clan when they attacked Luoxia City. All right. Let's go and see who dares to look down on our fire ape clan, the old man said and stood up. The two experts left the fire ape mountain and headed straight for Luoxia City. Chapter 2697. The siege of Luoxia City had been lifted, and peace was restored in the city. Gu Fei's family did not like to live in the city, so they moved to a secluded courtyard in the mountains outside the city. Gu Ling's mischief gave Gu Fei a grand disciple. Gu Fei was very fond of this grand disciple, so he personally taught her martial arts and guided Yener on the path of martial arts. With Gu Fei's personal guidance, Gu Ling did not care about her disciple at all. She spent all day playing with the purple bell that old tortoise gave her. There was nothing special about the purple bell. It was very ordinary, so Gu Ling could not see anything special about it. In the end, she tied the bell to her waist and continued to play around. Gu Ling was very playful, but Gu Fei and Yen were not worried that it would affect her cultivation. It was a natural instinct that should not be suppressed. In the eyes of parents, no matter how old their daughter was, she was still a child. Old Tortoise did not like crowded places, so he dismissed his subordinates and lived in the courtyard with Balan and the little fatty. Gu Fei and Old Tortoise had not seen each other for many years, so they naturally had a lot to talk about. The two verified their own Tao and benefited a lot from each other. They were already at the Holy Master level, so it was very difficult for them to improve their cultivation. It should be known that above the Holy Master was the Quasi-Supreme. However, this peace did not last long before it was broken. On this night, a golden crow suddenly appeared in the sky above Luoxia City, then directly descended towards the city. A powerful saint-level aura spread in all directions, causing all the creatures in Luoxia's city to be extremely terrified, as if the end of the world had suddenly arrived. All of this happened too suddenly. The dark night sky was illuminated, as if a real divine sun had appeared high in the sky. What happened? In the courtyard in the mountains, Gu Fei and the others were alarmed. The saint-level aura spread out, and countless creatures in the mountains were extremely frightened. This kind of pressure that was above all living beings was enough to make them despair. Eldest senior brother seems to be a little rash. At this time, on a mountain peak outside of Luoxia's city stood a handsome young man with blonde hair and white eyebrows. He couldn't help but frown when he saw this scene. Rumble! The heavens and earth shook as the golden crow descended. An extremely terrifying pressure descended from the sky. The higher one's cultivation was, the more they would feel it. Inside the city lord's manor, the old city lord spat out a mouthful of blood. His face was pale, and it was difficult for him to fight against the divine might of the divine path that was descending from the sky. What's going on? Could it be that the Fire Emperor has really come personally? The experts in the city lord's manor were all affected by the pressure of the saintly way that descended from the sky. Before such an absolutely powerful existence, no one dared to even think of resisting. The cultivators in the city were in despair. Under the pressure of the divine Tao, they were extremely frightened. This kind of fear spread out from the depths of their souls. Everyone looked up at the divine sun that was descending from the sky. Their faces were filled with shock and despair. They had all given up resisting. Lem. At this moment, the void trembled. A layer of immortal light appeared in the void. On the immortal light, immortal runes were faintly discernible and intertwined, forming ancient immortal diagrams. Each immortal diagram attracted the energy of the great Tao, shrouding the entire Luoxia city. The defensive grand formation of Luoxia city was activated. The grand formation was activated, emitting immortal light. All the cultivators in the city felt their bodies lightened, and the pressure was greatly reduced. This is... On the mountain peak outside the city, the Fire Ape Emperor couldn't help but feel a little surprise when he saw this. The immortal formation protecting Luoxia city was extraordinary. It was a saint formation. A mere small city actually has the protection of a saint formation? The Fire Ape Emperor murmured to himself. This was truly unbelievable. One should know that Luoxia city was only an inconspicuous city. Even the city lord was only an immortal emperor. If it was any other time, the Fire Ape Emperor wouldn't even spare a glance at such a small city, but the current situation was different. Saint formation, is this the work of those people? A majestic voice came from the sky, sounding incomparably majestic. At this time, the Fire Ape Emperor stood on the mountain peak, glancing in all directions. He wanted to find those people, but he couldn't find any Saint Realm beings. Boom! Amidst an earth-shattering noise, the divine sun collided with the layer of immortal light. A terrifying fluctuation spread out, and the layer of immortal light that enveloped the entire Luoxia city shook violently. The moment the divine sun collided with the immortal light, all the cultivators in the city coughed up blood. Even though the immortal light had neutralized most of the force, it was still enough to hurt them. Even the immortal emperors were no exception. At this time, the old immortal emperor in the city lord mansion crushed a jade talisman in his hand. Grandpa is in danger. In the courtyard, Yennefer immediately received the news from the old immortal emperor. The jade talisman in her hand glowed. Her expression changed drastically as she ran to find Gu Fei. At this time, Yennefer couldn't find Gu Fei because Gu Fei and the old tortoise had already flown up to the sky. They had completely concealed their presence, so no one could sense their presence. Even the Fire Ape Emperor was the same. Who are those two fellas? Saints under Fire Emperor? The old tortoise stood high up in the sky, looking at the divine sun in front of him, then at the golden-haired, white-browed youth on the mountain peak outside Luoxia city. Who cares who they are? Since they are here, there's no need for them to go back, Gu Fei said flatly. Only that Fire Emperor is qualified to be my opponent. I have no interest in these two little fellas. The old tortoise laughed. He had no intention of taking action. He didn't put the Fire Ape Emperor and the golden-haired old man in his eyes. I don't want to take action either. What should I do? Gu-Fei said with a shrug. Ask Balon to go. The old tortoise said and sent a message to Balon, who was still in the courtyard. After receiving the order, Balon immediately left the courtyard. The courtyard was also protected by a saint-grade formation. No one could sense Balon's presence in the courtyard. However, when Balon left the courtyard, he was immediately sensed by the Fire Ape Emperor and the golden-haired old man. Roar! Balon let out a furious roar and rushed out from the mountain. He soared into the sky and charged towards the golden-haired old man who had turned into a divine sun and was attacking the protective immortal light of Luoxia City. Chapter 2698. Ever since Balon came to the Heaven Realm, he had been following the old tortoise and Shaoqing, fighting side by side with Shaoqing. Although his level of cultivation was not as high as Xuqing's, he was still one of the old tortoise's most powerful generals. Roar! Balon roared. The mountains and rivers moved, and the terrifying sound waves spread out. Several nearby mountains immediately collapsed, turning into dust and dissipating in the void. Following that, everyone saw an incomparably shocking scene. They saw an incomparably huge fire qilin rushing out of the mountain, leaping up and pouncing towards the divine sun in the sky. The aura of the holy beast spread out in all directions. The entire world trembled under the feet of the fire qilin, and pitch-black spatial cracks spread out under the fire qilin's feet. This was the rhythm of shattering the void. You're finally out! A loud shout resounded, and then the divine sun smashed down towards the fire qilin that was charging over. The divine flames emanating from the divine sun incinerated the surrounding space to the point of incinerating it. This was not an ordinary fire, but a holy level fire of the way. There were flame-shaped patterns faintly visible in the flames. If a saint was burned by this holy fire, even if he did not die, he would at least lose a layer of skin. Rumble! The void shook. The mountain-like fire qilin also roared angrily, and then spat out a mouthful of divine fire towards the divine sun. This was a battle between two cultivators of the way of fire. It was not easy to cultivate the way of fire to the holy level. Moreover, the fire qilin was a natural creature of fire. However, the golden-haired old man was not simple either. Boom! Amidst the deafening rumble, the two powerful powers of the divine path collided, erupting with dazzling sparks that illuminated the entire night sky. Fire-shaped patterns continuously collided in the sky, collapsing continuously. The mighty storm of destruction directly shattered the void between heaven and earth. Even Luoxia City below was affected. The city protection formation was constantly shaking, showing signs of collapsing. This made all the cultivators in the city shudder. Once the great city barrier array was broken, the consequences would be dire. Fortunately, although the great city protecting formation was shaken by the destructive storm that swept down from the sky, it did not really collapse. This made everyone in the city heave a sigh of relief. At that moment, the divine sun and the fire qilin disappeared at the same time. Two figures flew backward. Old Turtle, who do you think will win? In the distant sky, Gu-Fei asked Old Tortoise. I have to say, your question is too unprofessional. Do you think I would say that my men would lose? Old Tortoise glanced at Gu-Fei disdainfully. He naturally supported Balon. Why would he support Balon's opponent? Hee. Gu-Fei smiled and said nothing more. At this moment, the aura of a holiness expert filled the world, and all living beings within a radius of 50,000 kilometers could sense this supreme aura. Who is that fellow? He's actually able to contend against eldest senior brother. On a mountain peak outside of Luoxia City, Fire Ape Emperor looked at the two cultivators of the doctrine of fire in the sky with a serious expression. He felt a bit uneasy. Eldest senior brother seems to have met his match. Fire Ape Emperor said to himself. Humph, it's just an old bird. How dare he come here and cause trouble? High up in the sky, Balan held his halberd and coldly looked at the elder in front of him. The elder was also a cultivator of the doctrine of fire, and his original form was a golden crow. Of course, it was impossible for this guy to be a pure-blooded golden crow. Otherwise, there would be no need to fight at all. Balan could just admit defeat. One should know that pure-blooded golden crows were innate divine birds that were truly bred from the sun. Innate divine birds had unimaginable talents, and they were not something that Balan could deal with. "You are just a mixed-blood beast. Making me angry won't do you any good," the elder said coldly. He stared at the fire Qilin Balan. His eyes flashed, and his murderous intent soared into the sky. Fire-shaped Tao patterns circled around him. "Ha! I'm afraid that you might have teeth and bite me." Balan pointed his halberd at the elder and laughed out loud. "You were the one who killed my junior brother," the elder said with a gloomy face. "What?" Balan said in surprise. Could this guy be here to avenge his junior brother? But who was this guy's junior brother? "Don't play dumb. My junior brother is the quasi-saint that died outside Luoxia City." The elder's eyes turned sharp and vicious. If this guy had not killed his junior brother, he would not have cared about this at all. His master had summoned him, so he had no choice but to come out. "Oh, you're talking about that little fella. Do you think that an existence like me would kill a quasi-saint?" Balan said unhappily. He was not someone who would bully the weak. A saint killing a quasi-saint was not something to be proud of. "Humph, my junior brother is invincible in the same realm. Who among the quasi-saints can be his match?" the elder said proudly. His junior brother was a peerless genius. He had cultivated for less than 1,000 years and was already a quasi-saint. The speed of his cultivation was so fast that even their master was shocked. Otherwise, this little junior brother of his wouldn't have been valued by his master and nurtured so heavily. "Ha ha!" Balan couldn't help but laugh out loud after hearing the elder's words. Invincible in the same realm? This guy thought that his junior brother was a martial artist. "This is the truth. Unless a saint takes action, no one can kill my junior sister." The elder's face turned even gloomier. "The truth is, I didn't kill your little junior brother. Since you're here, I'll send you to reunite with your little junior brother." Balan's battle intent surged. A powerful murderous aura spread out from his body. "You're not qualified to kill me." The elder was filled with battle intent as well. Even though this was what he said, he knew that he had met his match. This fire Qilin wasn't easy to deal with. "I can't be bothered to talk nonsense with you. Let's let the truth speak for itself." Balan waved the gigantic halberd in his hand and struck. The divine halberd pierced through the void and struck down at the elder's head. On the surface of the divine halberd, there were Tao patterns in the shape of flames appearing. Swoosh! At this moment, a beam of flame burst out from the elder's body. It turned into a bird's beak and flew towards the incoming halberd. This was a magic weapon that the elder had obtained. It was a magic weapon crafted by a powerful being of the Golden Crow race. Its name was the Golden Crow's Beak. As long as one were to be pecked by this Golden Crow's beak, even a saint would be severely injured. Clang! The Golden Crow's beak clashed with the divine halberd in Balan's hand, giving off a metallic sound. Balan could only feel a huge force coming from his hand. The divine halberd in his hand almost flew out of his hand. Shocked, he hurried to dodge it. The elder was shocked to see that Balan was able to withstand his attack. Swoosh! The elder took out the Golden Crow's beak and attacked Balan. The gigantic beak pierced through the void, displaying an incomparably powerful force. "Preposterous!" Balan roared in anger. He waved the gigantic halberd in his hand and charged forward. The divine halberd in his hand kept colliding with the Golden Crow's beak. The divine halberd in his hand was not an ordinary sacred weapon. It was a killing weapon. However, Balan had yet to display its true power. At this moment, Balan became serious. Although the Golden Crow's beak was incomparably powerful, it couldn't really suppress Balan. The two powerhouses were evenly matched, and it was not an easy task to determine a victor. Everyone was watching the battle nervously. The lord of Luosia's city naturally hoped that Balan could defeat the elder and drive him away. He was also very puzzled as to why these great figures were eyeing his Luoxia city. Luoxia city was only a small city. In the eyes of these great figures, a small city like Luoxia city shouldn't be in their eyes at all. Rumble! The void trembled. The two great experts fought from the sky to the ground, and then from the ground to the sky, fighting to the sky. Everywhere they passed, everything was mercilessly destroyed. In the end, the two great experts fought deep into the mountains. The entire mountain range was shaking as if doomsday had arrived. The battle lasted for several hours. Then, the elder retreated. The Fire Ape Emperor didn't attack and retreated as well. Baron and the old man fought to a standstill. The two of them were evenly matched, and neither was able to suppress the other. In the end, both of them ended up with injuries. Gu Fei and the old turtle didn't attack. They just let the elder and the Fire Ape Emperor retreat. Although Balan was seriously injured, Gu Fei grabbed him into his inner world and threw him into a heavenly spring of life after he returned to his courtyard in the mountains. Under the nourishment of the endless life essence contained in the heavenly spring of life, Balan completely recovered in half an hour. Even the internal injuries left by years of battles were completely healed. However, the elder wasn't so lucky. He was carried back to the fiery Saint Palace by the Fire Ape Emperor. The elder was seriously injured. He was almost split in half by Balan's halberd. The terrifying crack extended from the back of his head to his tailbone. You lost too. The golden-haired middle-aged man walked out of the fiery Saint Palace. He couldn't help but be shocked and angry when he saw that his eldest disciple was seriously injured. Who the hell is he? The golden-haired middle-aged man stared at the Fire Ape Emperor and said in a deep voice, "Master, I'm useless," the elder said while gasping for breath. "Master, he is very strong. Eldest brother tried his best," the Fire Ape Emperor explained. "It really is a demonic saint." The golden-haired middle-aged man sensed a powerful aura from the elder's wound. He couldn't help but be moved. This was the power of the great path of the demonic Tao. That is a fire Qilin. I think there must be an even more powerful existence behind it. Chapter 2699. Someone has injured my disciples consecutively. Seems like I'll have to make a trip myself. The golden-haired middle-aged man stood outside the gates of the fiery Saint Palace. He raised his head and looked at the void in front of him. His gaze seemed to be able to pierce through the endless void and see Luoxia city. Master is going to make a move himself. Big Brother Wu Jin and the Fire Ape Emperor were extremely shocked. One should know that their master hadn't made a move for many years. It seemed like this time, their master was really angry. The golden-haired middle-aged man then took out a pill and passed it to the black gold elder. "Thank you, master." Elder Wu Jin hurriedly received the pill respectfully. It was a saint pill refined from extreme young fire essence. Although the saint pill was only the size of a thumb, it was enveloped by a layer of fiery light. It emitted a dazzling radiance, like a small divine sun. "This is a golden sun saint pill." Looking at the saint pill in the black gold elder's hand, the Fire Ape Emperor's eyes lit up. This was the saint pill that all fire elemental living beings dreamed of. Big Brother Wu Jin got a blessing in disguise. He got a saint pill like this. Without any hesitation, the old man swallowed the saint pill. Soon, a fiery glow appeared on his body and his injured body began to heal at a rapid pace. The terrifying and hideous wound on his back was healing quickly. The black gold elder, who was on the verge of death, was invigorated after taking the golden sun saint pill. An extremely powerful fire elemental aura was emitted from his body. "Go back and heal up." The golden-haired middle-aged man waved his hand and said to the black gold elder, "Master, your disciple would like to serve you. Please allow me." The black gold elder knelt down in front of the golden-haired middle-aged man. "You should recuperate from your injuries first," the golden-haired middle-aged man said impatiently. His disciples were defeated one after another. He was in a bad mood and his face was terrifyingly gloomy. "Big brother." At that moment, the Fire Ape Emperor, who was standing beside the Black Gold Elder, secretly pulled the Black Gold Elder's clothes. His master was furious, and no one dared to go against him. "Yes, master." The golden-haired old man didn't dare to say anything else. He knew his master's personality very well. If he was defeated, it would be the same as slapping his master's face. "I'd like to see who dares to kill my disciple." As the golden-haired middle-aged man spoke, his body blurred and he disappeared into the void. Not even the Elder Crow Gold and the Fire Ape Emperor could see how he left. Suddenly, a divine flame avenue rushed over from afar and stopped in the sky above Luoxia City. Then, a figure walked over from the divine flame avenue. This person was like a supreme sovereign of the Tao of Fire. In an instant, he arrived above Luoxia City. "Are you done yet?" Just after it stopped for a while, an incomparably powerful aura came from the direction of the Luoxia City. This made Gu Fei very angry in the courtyard. "Old Tortoise, go take care of it." Gu Fei transmitted his voice to Old Tortoise. F***CK, why don't you go? This seems to be your territory, not mine. Old Tortoise transmitted his voice to Gu Fei. "If you don't do something, Luoxia City is going to be destroyed by that guy." Old Tortoise added. Sigh. Although Gu Fei didn't want to do anything, he had no choice but to do so at this time. This guy was a holy sovereign. Even a holy Venerable had come. Such a powerhouse could easily break the Luoxia City's Great City Barrier formation and completely erase Luoxia City from the world. Swoosh. Gu Fei's figure disappeared into the void. In the next second, he appeared in Luoxia City. At this time, all the living beings in Luoxia City were paralyzed on the ground because of the golden-haired middle-aged man's arrival. They were extremely terrified. The aura of a holy sovereign made all the living beings in the city feel like they were going to have a mental breakdown. No one could resist such an unparalleled aura. However, the moment Gu Fei appeared in the city, all the living beings in the city let out a sigh of relief. The terrifying aura that made them unable to stand had weakened a lot. "Who are you?" The golden-haired middle-aged man looked down at Gu Fei in the city. His eyes flickered as he sensed an aura from Gu Fei that was not weaker than his own. "Who I am has nothing to do with you." Gu Fei looked up at the figure in the sky and said indifferently, "It's your people who killed my disciple." The golden-haired middle-aged man's tone was incomparably majestic. He didn't show any anger, as if he was a supreme existence that dominated the life and death of all living beings in the world. "So what if I am? So what if I am not?" Gu Fei suddenly laughed. He crossed his arms in front of his chest and looked at the golden-haired middle-aged man in the sky playfully. "Kill." The golden-haired middle-aged man was enraged. However, people like him didn't show their emotions. He directly made his move. A giant hand that emitted monstrous divine flames instantly covered the entire world and slammed down on Luoxia City. The terrifying pressure of a Saint Venerable spread out from the giant hand, causing all living beings within a radius of millions of miles to be terrified. A Saint Venerable was too powerful. Even in an incomparably stable world like the Heaven Realm, a Saint Venerable's full strength could affect an entire region. Gu Fei didn't act immediately after seeing this scene. Rumble. The giant hand slammed down from the sky, causing the void below it to constantly shatter. Even the chaotic energy was blown out. The great formation of Luoxia City immediately collapsed. The layer of immortal light formed by the power of the great formation instantly shattered like a layer of exquisite porcelain. At this time, Gu Fei threw a punch. There was no monstrous divine fluctuation or dazzling divine light, it was just a casual punch. However, it was this punch that shattered the huge hand that came crashing down from the sky and dissipated in the void. Yes. The golden-haired middle-aged man couldn't help but be moved when he saw how easily Gu Fei broke his great technique. This person is not simple, he is a formidable opponent. Gu Fei stood in the city and didn't soar into the sky to fight the golden-haired middle-aged man. "How dare you look down on me?" The golden-haired middle-aged man was furious. He directly sat down in the void and activated his Xian Qi. Suddenly, countless meteorites appeared in the sky. He had actually summoned the meteorites from the starry sky. Rumble! The sky seemed like it was about to collapse. Countless meteorites turned into balls of fire and smashed down on Luoxia City. What, we're dead this time. Chapter 2700. The golden-haired middle-aged man was extremely powerful. He summoned meteorites from the sky with his strength. Countless meteorites moved quickly in the air. They rubbed against the air and turned into balls of fire. In the pitch-black night sky, countless fireballs fell from the sky. This scene shocked everyone. They were all stunned and dumbfounded. Heh, is that all you've got? Gu Fei smiled contemptuously, then stretched out his right hand and pressed it towards the sky. In the next moment, the void trembled and the countless fireballs that fell from the sky immediately exploded. The countless meteorites seemed to have hit an invisible wall, and were all intercepted. You! The golden-haired middle-aged man saw that his great technique was broken again. He couldn't help but be furious. His face was terrifyingly gloomy. At this time, the Fire Ape Emperor and the others who were watching the battle from afar were extremely shocked. Their own teacher was fighting and yet he was defeated. How was this possible? Some important figures from the fiery Saint Palace came as well. One should know that the golden-haired middle-aged man was second only to the Fire Emperor. His action naturally startled many people. Jin Yen has met his match, an important figure from the fiery Saint Palace said. He's always been arrogant. He thinks that no one can suppress him except for the Fire Emperor. It seems that he has kicked an iron plate this time, someone said. His tone was quite dissatisfied with the golden-haired middle-aged man. Teacher! The Fire Ape Emperor heard these people and couldn't help but worry. His always invincible teacher had met his match today. In another direction, on top of a mountain, many people stood. The one in the lead was the old tortoise. He couldn't help but come out to watch the battle. Gu Fei is acting tough again. Doesn't he know that acting tough will get him struck by lightning? The old tortoise said to himself. Rumble! At this time, the sky and earth shook. The golden-haired middle-aged man, Jin Yen, made his move. Endless fire elemental power condensed into a divine bird. It was a three-legged golden bird that was bathed in divine fire. Within the endless fire, there were flame-shaped patterns faintly visible. The three-legged golden bird soared into the sky from Jin Yan's body, then swooped down towards Gu Fei in Luoxia City. Wherever it passed, the void was silently annihilated. Haha, if it's the real golden crow, then I might be a bit afraid. However, it's just a three-legged bird created by a great technique. Do you think such a great technique can deal with me? This is too funny. Gu Fei laughed. He waved his hand and displayed the 9 heaven-punishing swords. A dazzling swordlight soared into the sky and cut the golden crow into 2. The remaining power of the sword light did not dissipate. After splitting open the golden bird, it still slashed towards Jin Yen. What? Jin Yen was incomparably shocked. He pointed out with a finger and directly shattered the incoming sword light. He discovered that the other party's sword light was somewhat similar to the Eastern Earth's celestial Emperor Yuan Gu's flying immortal swordsmanship. The Flame Emperor and the ancient Yuan celestial darch were allies, so Jin Yen naturally knew about the ancient Yuan celestial darch. I'll use you as a test subject. Gu Fei's body shone with dazzling sword light. 9 rays of sword light circled around him. He stretched out his hand and drew one of the sword light into his hand. Virum! The sound of a sword rang out in the void. Gu Fei waved his hand again, and the sword light that he had drawn into his hand immediately soared into the sky, piercing towards Jin Yen in the sky. Whoosh! At that moment, Jin Yen flipped his right hand and a mirror appeared in his hand. He did not hesitate, and directly held the mirror towards the sword light that was piercing towards him. A dazzling mirror light rushed out of the mirror and collided with Gu Fei's heaven-punishing swordsmanship. The two forces dissipated at the same time. The sword light and the mirror light both disappeared into the void. Virum! The void trembled and the ancient mirror in Jin Yan's hand shook. Runes constantly awakened on the mirror, and an extremely powerful aura of the divine path spread out from the mirror. The Golden Sun Mirror? The Fire Ape Emperor, who had been watching the battle from afar, could not help but be shocked when he saw his master use a ritual implement. Was that young man really that strong? The Golden Sun Mirror was a treasure of the Fire Saint Palace, and would not be used lightly. Sky-covering palm! Gu Fei shouted and directly used the sky-covering palm. A giant chaotic palm shot into the sky from Luoxia City and slammed towards Jin Yen. Jin Yen was both shocked and furious. He activated the Golden Sun Mirror with all his might, and beams of fiery light rushed out of it, trying to pierce through the sky-covering palm. However, the power displayed by the sky-covering palm was terrifying. Even the fiery light from the Golden Sun Mirror could not withstand it. Boom! With a muffled sound, Jin Yen was sent flying by Gu Fei's palm. Jin Yen roared in anger. He could not accept the fact that he had been sent flying by Gu Fei's palm. The ancient mirror in his hand continued to burst with dazzling divine light. Hum! At this time, 9 rays of sword light shot into the sky from Luoxia City and slashed towards Jin Yen. Each ray of sword light was incomparably dazzling and emitted extremely sharp sword chi. This is... Jin Yen was shocked. The opponent's sword light was too similar to the soaring immortal sword light of the ancient heavenly emperor. However, he knew that this was not the soaring immortal sword light. These 9 rays of sword light were much more powerful than the soaring immortal sword light of the ancient heavenly emperor. Swoosh! Just as the 9 sword lights were about to strike Jin Yan's body, Jin Yan's figure suddenly blurred and disappeared into the void in an instant. Jin Yan had actually dodged the attack. Boom! In the next moment, a 3-legged divine bird the size of a mountain rushed out of the void and swooped towards Gu Fei in Luoxia City. The terrifying pressure of a Saint Venerable radiated from the divine bird, causing the surrounding space to collapse and crack. It was terrifying to the extreme. Die! Gu Fei directly punched out. Vast chaotic force surged, and the terrifying fist force directly sent the 3-legged divine bird flying. Blood splattered in the air. Is that all? At this time, Gu Fei soared into the sky and punched again. His fist displayed a terrifying might that caused people's hearts to palpitate. The 3-legged divine bird was blown away once again, and the boundless fire chi dissipated. The projection of the 3-legged divine bird dissipated, and Jin Yan's figure appeared in the void. Chapter 2701. The golden-haired middle-aged man was the ancestor of the Golden Crow clan. Although he was not a pure-blooded Golden Crow, his abilities were definitely on par with a pure-blooded Golden Crow. It was rare to see a pure-blooded Golden Crow in the world. Even in the ancient times, no one had seen a pure-blooded Golden Crow. Some said that the pure-blooded Golden Crow was extinct, and that it was impossible for such a Golden Crow to appear in the world again. However, some also said that the pure-blooded descendants of the clan were still alive. They just lived in seclusion and wouldn't come out easily. However, among the descendants of the Golden Crow in the South Mountains of the Heaven Realm, there had never been another pure-blooded Golden Crow. The Golden Crow ancestor's cultivation was undoubtedly strong, but he was still lacking compared to the Fire Emperor. This ancestor was second only to the Fire Emperor in the Fire Clan. However, the Golden Crow ancestor, who was second only to one person in the Southern Mountains Fire Tribe, had suffered a setback. He was actually suppressed by an unknown person. How is this possible? The Fire Ape Emperor and the other experts of the Fire Clan who were watching the battle from afar were extremely shocked. How could the Golden Crow ancestor be defeated? One should know that the Golden Crow ancestor had lived for countless years in the immemorial era. He was a powerful existence in the same era as the Fire Emperor. Back then, the Fire Emperor and the Golden Crow old ancestor were fighting for the control of the Fire race. The two experts of the Fire race fought for 3 days and 3 nights. Finally, the Golden Crow old ancestor was defeated by one move and passed the throne of the Fire race. The Golden Crow ancestor had always been arrogant. He had fought countless battles in his life and had only lost once. It was to the Fire Emperor. He lost by one move. Although the Fire Emperor defeated the Golden Crow ancestor and sat on the throne of the Fire Clan, it was a Pyrrhic victory. This was enough to show how strong and terrifying the Golden Crow ancestor was. Like disciple, like master. Your disciple is so useless. You are even more useless. Gu Fei soared into the sky in an incomparably powerful manner. An extremely powerful aura erupted from his body, causing the entire space to tremble under his incomparably powerful aura. A saint, and a martial arts saint, you! At this moment, the old Master Golden Crow could no longer maintain his composure. He was both shocked and enraged. To think that this human would turn out to be a saint of the martial Tao. The path of the martial Tao was extremely difficult to cultivate. However, once one managed to cultivate it, one would be an invincible existence within the same cultivation state. Old Ancestor Golden Crow had experienced that great era, so he naturally knew how powerful and terrifying a martial saint was. Preposterous! So what if you're a martial saint? You still have to die. Gu Fei's disdain and disregard infuriated the Golden Crow Patriarch. He summoned the Golden Sun Mirror with all his might, and the ancient mirror immediately turned into a ball of dazzling divine light that soared into the sky like a real sun, illuminating the night sky. 1 into 10, 10 suns illuminate the sky. The Golden Crow ancestor roared and used all his strength to detonate the power of the Golden Sun ancient mirror. Boom! The entire sky shook violently as if it was going to flip over. Then, 10 divine suns appeared high up in the sky. This was an extremely shocking scene. 10 divine suns had appeared in the sky, and every single one of them emitted an extremely horrifying energy wave. Especially within the 10 divine suns, there was a faint silhouette of the Golden Crow. Go to hell! The Golden Crow Patriarch activated the 10 divine suns and slammed them down at Gu Fei. The entire sky was instantly sealed by the power of the 10 suns, cutting off all of Gu Fei's escape routes. Humph! Seeing this, Gu Fei did not appear immediately. He allowed the 10 suns to descend from the sky and press down on him. The pressure from the heavens could not affect him at all. Boom! Boom! The heavens and earth shook as if they were about to collapse. Everyone in the Luoxia city below was stunned. Looking at this scene, everyone's jaws dropped. This scene was way too shocking. At this moment, the power of the pure sun that descended from the sky was extremely powerful. However, in the face of this incomparably powerful attack, Gu Fei was still as calm as the clouds and wind. At this time, all the cultivators in the Luoxia city were on the verge of a mental breakdown. The pressure from the heavens was too powerful and terrifying. Just SOSO. Watch how I break the 10 suns. Gu Fei was bursting with confidence. He just punched upwards, and the powerful power of the Great Path immediately surged out from his fist. Just this blow alone shook the heavens and earth. Boom! With a loud noise, the martial arts power that erupted from Gu Fei's fist collided with the 10 divine suns that descended from the sky. The 10 suns trembled at the same time. The power of the 10 suns was so powerful that even Gu Fei could not help but be moved. Although his punch blocked the 10 suns from descending, the 10 divine suns were not destroyed by him. Good heavens! Gu Fei knew that if he did not get serious, he would not be able to defeat this guy. Take another punch from me. Gu Fei roared and once again punched upwards with his right fist. The strongest power erupted, and an indomitable aura erupted from his body. 9 chaotic Tao patterns emerged on Gu Fei's body, and the powerful pressure of a saint venerate erupted from his body, causing everyone's soul to tremble. Even a saint would have to bow down in front of Gu Fei. Boom! 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 3 divine suns exploded under Gu Fei's fist. The sun Tao patterns dissipated in the void, and the monstrous fire swept up to the sky, burning the void until it was annihilated. What? The Golden Crow Great Ancestor looked at this scene in disbelief. The strength of his opponent had exceeded his imagination. A saint venerate of the martial way was really invincible among those of the same level. Fight! The Golden Crow great ancestor gritted his teeth and continued to direct the remaining 7 divine sons to suppress Gu Fei. The Golden Crow's shadow inside the 7 divine sons became clearer, emitting the might of the Golden Crow. The innate divine bird flapped its wings inside the divine sons. A terrifying power of destruction spread out from the 7 divine sons. The void was annihilated, and the chaotic she was vast and mighty. Each of the divine sons emitted a terrifying power that could destroy the world. It was like the end of the world. Master! The Fire Ape Emperor was dumbfounded at this scene. This was the first time he saw his master go all out. This made him nervous and excited. Gu Fei is in trouble. Far in the sky, the old tortoise stood on the clouds and muttered to himself. The old Golden Crow's cultivation was not weak, which made the old tortoise appreciate his talent. It would be great if he could make the old Golden Crow join his side. The old tortoise knew Gu Fei's temper. Once this guy got serious, he might accidentally kill the old Golden Crow. Chapter 2702. 7 destructive suns descended from the sky. The terrifying pressure caused the world to crumble. The sky above Luoxia City was destroyed, turning the void into a chaotic void. I want you to accept your defeat wholeheartedly. On Gu Fei's body, 9 primal chaos Dao patterns appeared indistinctly. He soared into the sky and completely ignored the 7 divine suns that were pressing down. Then, he swung his fists and smashed them directly at the divine suns. Is he crazy? Seeing Gu Fei's actions, the Fire Ape Emperor and the other experts of the Fiery Saint Palace were stunned. This man actually dared to go head-on against the old ancestor. Everyone found it hard to believe. However, a scene that shocked the Fire Ape Emperor and the others even more happened. The human punched out and a divine sun that exuded a torrential aura of destruction exploded. The golden raven shadow inside the divine sun shrieked and dissipated. This is unbelievable. All the experts of the Fiery Saint Palace were petrified. They stood there blankly, forgetting to think. Even the Fire Ape Emperor, a saint-level expert, felt his mind going blank. At this moment, Gu Fei displayed his peerless battle prowess. With a single punch, he actually managed to blow up all 7 divine suns. Gotcha! The sound of something shattering was heard. An ancient mirror was destroyed in the blazing sunfire. An ancient saint weapon was destroyed just like that. The blazing sunfire covered the entire sky. Gu Fei's figure moved rapidly in the sea of fire, heading straight for the Golden Crow old ancestor. The battle between 2 Saint Venerables was so intense that even the heavenly Tao was trembling. Even some of the super antiques that had been in slumber for countless years were awakened. Normally, the Fire Emperor should have sensed a battle of this level long ago. However, the Fire Emperor had yet to appear. Humph, the Golden Crow old ancestor provoked him. It's his bad luck. A figure appeared in the sky. When he saw the person fighting with the Golden Crow old ancestor, he couldn't help but be shocked. But he quickly calmed down. Bam! At this moment, a muffled sound came from the sea of fire. Then, a figure flew out from the sea of fire. Drops of blood dripped down from the sky. The Golden Crow old ancestor had been defeated. Furthermore, he had been thoroughly defeated. Close combat had always been the advantage of cultivators. Once a cultivator closed in on them, it would be a tragedy. With just one punch, Gu Fei had turned the once insufferably arrogant Golden Crow patriarch, who had only been defeated once in his life, into a black eye, and was sent flying hundreds of thousands of feet away. Ancestor Golden Crow was inconsolable. When he stabilized his body, he spat out a mouthful of blood. Just as he came to a stop, he saw a figure flash before his eyes. That human had already appeared before him and punched out. That hateful fist rapidly enlarged in his eyes, and finally blocked everything. Bang! Gotcha! Gu Fei punched Patriarch Golden Crow's nose bridge and broke it, causing his nose to bleed profusely. But to the Golden Crow old ancestor, the pain on his body was nothing. What he truly cared about was the contempt and disdain that the other party had towards him. Kill! Fire-shaped Tao patterns appeared and interweaved on the Golden Crow Old Ancestor's body. A supreme Saint Venerable aura emanated from his body. The injuries on his body were healing at a speed visible to the naked eye. Boom! The Golden Crow Old Ancestor opened his mouth and spat out a huge seal. This was a fire seal that was shrouded in raging flames. The aura that emanated from the fire seal was simply too terrifying. At this moment, Gu Fei's fist had arrived in front of the Golden Crow Old Ancestor. Without thinking, the Golden Crow Old Ancestor used the fire seal, wanting to suppress Gu Fei. Bang! Gu Fei did not care about the fire seal. He punched out and landed on the fire seal, causing it to tremble violently. When Gu Fei saw that this fire seal was able to withstand his punch and did not shatter, he knew that this fire seal was not simple. It was not something that an ordinary Saint Venerable artifact could compare to. At this moment, the Golden Crow Old Ancestor was already stunned by the battle strength that Gu Fei had displayed. It was no longer as simple as being moved. Others might not know the power of this fire seal, but he was very clear that this fire seal was an ancestral artifact of the Golden Crow clan. It would not be used casually. Bang! Gu Fei punched the fire seal again. This time, the fire seal was actually blown away. The Golden Crow Old Ancestor quickly retreated. Swish! Gu Fei used the 8 desolation steps, displaying the extreme speed of 8 steps. He instantly caught up to the Golden Crow Ancestor and stomped down. This was the 8 kill steps, causing the entire space to tremble. Bang! The Golden Crow Old Ancestor was directly trampled down from the sky by Gu Fei. He fell from the sky like a meteorite and smashed into a mountain peak with a boom. Rumble! The mountain collapsed. Rocks flew everywhere and dust rose high into the sky. The descending Golden Crow Old Ancestor had directly smashed a mountain into pieces. Roar! The Golden Crow Old Ancestor's deep roar came from the billowing dust. He had never suffered such a heavy blow before. He had never been in such a miserable state. Trying to kill me? What a joke! High up in the sky, Gu Fei looked down at the billowing dust and said disdainfully. Then 9 primordial Tao patterns rushed out from his body and turned into 9 primordial sword lights. Each of the sword lights emitted extremely sharp sword chi waves. This was the sword intent of the heaven-punishing 9 swords. Gu Fei directly used the heaven-punishing 9 swords. With a wave of his hand, the 9 sword lights immediately soared into the sky and slashed downwards. The primordial sword lights were like rainbows that directly pierced through the void. The 9 sword lights descended from the sky and destroyed the void, causing the ground below to tremble violently. The 9 sword lights all slashed towards the Golden Crow Old Ancestor. The Golden Crow Old Ancestor turned pale with fright. He immediately crushed a jade talisman and escaped just as the 9 sword lights were about to descend. Go! The Fire Ape Emperor immediately turned and left. Even his master had escaped. How would he dare to stay here? If that martial Saint Venerable were to attack him, he wouldn't be able to survive even if he had 10 lives. Why hasn't the Fire Emperor appeared yet? Up in the sky, the Southern Mountains God Emperor muttered to himself. He initially thought that this battle would alarm the Fire Emperor. Then, the Fire Emperor would fight against Gu Fei and both sides would suffer. However, this was all in the Southern Mountains God Emperor's imagination. When the Golden Crow Old Ancestor was defeated by Gu Fei, the Fire Emperor still hadn't appeared. Roar!